Hey, Jim Toscano here, and welcome to the Monday night live stream, Filling in the Grooves. I'm just coming off of PASIC 2021, which was awesome. Great to be back in person and hanging with all my brothers in the drum community and seeing some amazing clinics. David Garibaldi, for one, my good buddy, and Marcus Gilmore. And, man, it was just a whole host of guys that played great and gave us love and information. So PASIC 2021, back in person, and we did a great drum set panel, myself, Joe Bergamini, Nick Costa, Murray Piper, and Jason Gianni, and we were telling people how we survived as educator players, how we survived the pandemic, which is, a whole topic that everybody wants to ask questions about. And now here I am back to live streaming tonight. I'm so excited. I have an amazing guest tonight, and I'm going to get into it. Before I do that, I'm just going to mention real quick Sabian Cymbals, of course, who I spent time with the Sabian family this past weekend, which was amazing. Offset Pedals, ProLogix. The ProLogix family is just so great to me, and I appreciate them. And Black Magic Designs for my lovely switcher and monitors. So just always have to mention the companies. And, if you're into what I do, just hit the QR code up top and you can follow all my links. All right. So now, tonight, and I'm gonna put my glasses on because I wrote a list. I got to read you my list. So my guest tonight is first of all, he's a master drummer and an entrepreneur, and we're gonna get into that side, the drum side and the entrepreneurial side. We're gonna give attention to both tonight. This guy has played with such artists, and I saw him live in 2019 with Nile Rodgers and Chic, and he blew me away. And he's been on my mind since that night, and I'm so happy to finally get him on the show. But he's also played with Toshi Kubota, Sting, Bette Midler, Bono, Elvis Costello, Vanessa Williams. I almost said Vanilla Williams. Mary J. Blige, Biggie Smalls, Queen Latifah, Erykah Badu, John Legend, India Arie, a bunch of slubs, no-name people that he's been playing with. Man, tonight, my guest, Ralph Rolle. Let me bring him on. And there he is.
Hey,
all right.
That was funny. No, dude, you said Vanilla Williams. I like that.
Yeah, I don't know if she'd appreciate that too much.
No.
Oh man, so great to have you on tonight, hanging. And
thank you, brother. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And we're gonna get into, of course, in the description of the video. By the way, guys, I have all the pertinent links to what Ralph Rolle is up to, including Soul Snacks, your amazing baking company, and Soul Snacks Cafe, which is located in the Bronx, New York. Both those are online. You can check out the cafe. You can check out his baking company, which we're going to get into as well. And I have a speed round of questions that we'll get into a little later about certain drummers. But I want to kind of start at the beginning because we're both New Yorkers. You grew up in the Bronx, right? And
Yep.
We're both Southpaws, so we have that in common. I love that. Always connecting with my lefty brothers. There's not that many of us, but you play open-handed, so you have an advantage. You can sub on Broadway. I can't. I got to switch drums around. It's a whole problem. So how did you get started in the beginnings? Like, what made you get that spark and go, yeah, that. I want to play drums, that.
The main, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, brother. I mean, this is great. I'll tell the story later as to what happened today, which was hilarious. But
yeah.
But I got started drumming at a young age because my older brother was the drummer. I just did anything he did, I did. I don't care what it was. The way he walked, I would copy the way he walked. When he comb his hair to one side. When I had hair, I would do the same thing. And and one day a set of drums just showed up in the bedroom, and it was just our bedroom. And right in the middle of this real small bedroom was a set of drums in between the two beds. And I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. There's drums. And the thing about growing up the way I grew up, my mother was extremely a strict lady. So you had to get permission. He didn't just set up the drums like I'm just setting up drums. He had to first ask. He had to give a reason why. And I think looking back, she gave him permission because then she knew exactly where he was in the room, because growing up sometimes in the Bronx in public housing, you could get into stuff. There was a lot of stuff to get into. Yeah. So the drums showed up and I just wanted to play and he was playing and he played with some local guys, one who's still a very close friend of mine, a guy named Ricky Williams. He plays drums, he sings, plays keys, he writes, produces, and he was in the band. Anyway, I asked my brother, could I play the drums? And he said, no, you could play, but you're left-handed, so don't switch the drums around. So I said, well, okay. So the ride cymbal is on the left side, on the right side. And so I had to reach over to play the cymbal. And the first thing that I played, and I think the only thing I played for probably about 6 months was I had seen Ed Sullivan and they brought over the Beatles and Ringo Starr just captured me. I thought everything about him was just cool. And he looked like he was having the best time of his life. So I would just play, she loves you, yeah. I would just play that. And, the drums just stuck from that point on.
Wow.
And across in the next apartment, there was a window that they would hear me and they would watch me. So they were my first audience. It was the Pagan family. So wherever you are, the Pagans, thank you for being my first audience.
And thank you for putting up with drums.
Yeah, exactly. I think they were looking like, could you shut up? Like, could you keep it down?
I'll tell you, man,
Yeah.
just to pivot real quickly, I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you said about your mom knew that your brother was home because he was playing drums, my mom said, I grew up in Flatbush in Brooklyn. She said that she could sleep on the couch right above the basement where I was playing because she knew I was home. She could
Right.
hear, she heard me playing. She knew I was in the house. I was safe. It was okay.
Yeah. So I think many times there was a method to my mother's madness, and I always appreciated, her and her thinking. And, sometimes it was rough. I got to tell you, she would lay down the law. I'm just messaging my sister because she'll kill me if I do this and don't tell her. She'll just kill me dead. So I'm sorry I had to take a pause there.
No. That's fine, man.
Yeah. So, but that's how the drum started for me, and it just stayed in my life. And one day I came in, and the drums were gone. They were gone. And I had no clue where the drums had gone. And I asked my mother, because my brother wasn't home. And I said, Mommy, do you know where the drums are? And she said, go ask your brother. So I tracked my brother down. I knew where he was. He had fell in love with a young lady. And they were together. They were inseparable. And I said, what happened to the drums? And he said, I had to sell the drums because, Michelle's going to have a baby. Mommy put me out. And it just turned into a whole thing. But the only thing I heard, I didn't hear Mommy put me out. I heard I sold the drums.
I saw the drums.
So I was like, dude, where's the drums? Like, let's go get them back.
Oh my God.
But the silver lining in that story, and I want to get to that quickly, is they got married. They had 4 daughters and a bunch of grandkids, and they've been together for over 50 years, and they're still together. So, wow. It was a good reason. I mean, he was just trying to get his hustle on, but at that point, the drums had gotten into my blood, and I wanted to play drums. So I just made friends with everybody in the neighborhood that had drums, and I would go to their house. Hey, buddy, what you doing? Can I play?
Can I borrow your drums for a while?
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's how it kind of got started. The first guy was across the street. My friend since 5 years old, his name is Artie Durant. He had a drum kit. He had a huge Ludwig 9-piece red drum kit. And I used to just she had 2 sons and a daughter. And I practically lived in that house in his room. I would stay there as much as possible. Ricky Williams, the guy I told you about, he had a drum set. He had a Rodgers kit 4-piece. He had the Dynasonic stuff. It was killer sound. And I spent a lot of time there because he was such a master groove guy, and I loved the way he sounded. So
oh my God.
that's kind of how it all got started.
You mentioned, I think, unless I'm losing my mind, I think you mentioned Ricky as being sort of a mentor, no?
Ricky, it's funny that 2 of my biggest mentors are both named Ricky.
Oh, okay.
Ricky Williams and Ricky Mangum came at different points, and we're still brothers. We're still great friends. I think Ricky's listening tonight.
Oh, really?
But Ricky Williams, I learned a lot from him as far as a trap set is concerned.
Okay.
Ricky is about 6'5".
Whoa.
And drums wasn't his man. And I'm a kid. I'm 10 years old. My mother didn't let me go too far, and there was only certain places she did let me go. And one of those places was either Artie Durant's house or Ricky Mangum's house. Excuse me, Ricky Williams' house, and
Right.
Ricky Mangum later on.
Right.
So I would go to Ricky's house and just to watch him play. Now, what was so special about Ricky is that Ricky was blind.
Ah.
And he never allowed that to be any sort of obstacle. He played in the neighborhood with everybody else. He did everything everybody else did. And he used to crush the drums, just like I would stand behind him and kind of try to peek over his shoulder because he was so big, and watch his hands and listen to the way he grooved. And I would close my eyes just to try to get what vibe he was in. Like, and I learned later on that not having the sense of sight helped his sense of hearing, which really helped his sense of groove.
Wow.
And I actually teach that in my master classes to show people how important developing your ears are, and how sometimes your eyes can be deceiving to your ears. And I learned how to groove and get his pocket, which was amazing, you know. And I kind of took that with me and grew with it and knew how to understand the relationship between, like when you're playing funk and R&B and soul, the relationship between your kick, snare, and hi-hat sonically, and what that means to a groove.
Wow.
You know, and I try my best teaching to show that relationship, you know. But Ricky meant always is, you know, we get on the phone now, we just laugh like old times. Me, him, another friend of mine, Jan Holmes, I grew up with, keyboard player. We still laugh like it was yesterday. They're amazing players, and I was so honored to be in their presence at the time when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, you know.
Oh man. Well, I just real quick, we should just mention a few names that are piling up in the chat. So there is a Ricky in the chat, and his YouTube name is Ricky Magnum, and he says
that's Ricky Mangum.
Oh, Magnum. I don't know my glasses on. Yeah, Mangum. Right. So Ricky Mangum is in the chat, yes. And he said, "What's up, Ralph? Love you, my brother." So he's here.
What's up, Rick? Love you too, man. Ricky was the next Ricky in my life, which came around the age of 15.
Okay.
Right about that age, I joined a drum and bugle corps. And the way how that happened, I was in my room on a Sunday, and I heard somebody drumming on the fence outside of my building. I used 1595 East 174th Street, Bronx, New York, apartment 3F is where I grew up. And I heard somebody drumming, and I looked out the window. It was my friend Jerry Horde, who lived in the building behind me in 1575 up on the 10th floor. And so I said, "What?" I didn't even know he played drums. So I said, "Oh, what's going on?" He says, "I'm going to drum corps practice. Do you want to go?" And just like I always say, I said, "Okay, let me ask my mother," because I couldn't just say, "Yeah, I'm going." So I asked my mother. Luckily, Jerry Horde's mother and my mother both served on the tennis patrol and the tennis association, so he was safe. So she allowed me to go to drum corps rehearsal with him, and I got on the train. 6 train down to 125th, 4 train up to Kingsbridge Armory. And one of the first people I met is a guy named Michael Araquente, who was in the drum line. And he was doing something that I was unheard of. He was playing on the pole in the train. My mother would kill me if I did that.
Oh my God.
But he was playing like, he was doing all of this stuff. And I was like, man, this guy's good. So we get to drum corps practice, and, I walk in, and there's a bunch of people in the semicircle holding horns. And there's a guy standing in front of him yelling. And I'm like, I don't know if I like this, but I'm scared right now, And then we go over to the drum area, and in seconds, I'm in. I'm like, I'm a crackhead. I'm done. It's like, this is the best thing. This is a group of guys who plays drums, who are doing things that I've never seen done before.
And this is the Lancers?
No, this is the New York Knickerbockers.
Knickerbockers, all right.
And that's where I met Ricky Mangum, and I met Joey Matos, and I met Ronnie Whaley, and all of them. We're all still friends. Joe Morgan. We're all still Michael Araquente. I just spoke to him the other day. We have been friends for over 50 years.
Oh my goodness.
And that was a very important part of the growth, because Ricky became one of the instructors moving forward as I grew up. The first instructor that I really liked was a guy named Jim O'Hara. The very next instructor after him was we call him Yoda, is Bobby Craig. Bobby Craig has always been a master teacher, and a lot of the techniques that I use in teaching is the way he talks and the way that he would explain things. He had the ability to make anyone feel like they can do anything on earth.
Wow.
And he has turned out some of the best drummers on the planet, in my opinion. Like amazing hands, great teachers, great educators, guys who are working to this day. And Bobby Craig was that guy. And Ricky also worked under Bobby. So then we went over to a drum corps out in New Jersey, Elizabeth, New Jersey, called the Falcon Cadets. Now, this is 1976. I'm 17 years old. I'm under Bobby's tutelage, and Ricky's, I think, in the line at the time. But then I think Ricky might have left and became assistant. I'm not sure about that. I think he did. And I told Bobby that I wanted to do individual competitions. And, in his way, he went, "Oh, okay, let's, fine. I think it'll be great. Let's work it out." He says, "You write the piece. It has to be, I think, 1.5 minutes or 2. I don't know exactly the time frame. And we'll edit it together. We'll time it. We'll figure it out." And we did that. And I went out to my first competition, and I won first place, and I also won high score of the night.
Oh my
and
God.
I was like, okay. I realized at that moment that is anything that you put your mind to is doable. Anything that you work hard for, no matter where you came from or what color you are, it doesn't matter. That wasn't right at that moment. I remember being on the bus coming back from the competition in like with this smile on my face, like I cannot believe I just won, and I cannot believe I got high score of the night. Then I kept going to competitions and I kept doing well, and it just gave me more confidence. But that was a lot. I had a lot to do with Bobby Craig. Ricky Williams, Bobby Craig had a lot to do with giving me that confidence. And Ricky's hands, have always been amazing. So I would go to his house. My mother would let me spend the night there. Miss Mangum would cook, and we would just drum all night, just drum. He would teach me stuff, and we would just play. And I took that and applied it back to the drums.
Oh my God.
And that's how and that was all between the age of the drum corps started for me between the age of 14, 15 and 21.
Wow.
And then I was actually starting my career then, but I went back to drum corps because I loved it so much.
So all of this experience in drum corps, did you go back and teach drum corps at all or
I did.
run drum lines?
I did. I taught under Ricky.
Wow.
I taught drum lines with Ricky Mangum, and it was a lot of fun, and just the energy that I got from him. He would let me create stuff, and then during that time, I didn't know how to read music, so I was teaching myself how to write and compose. So what I would do is I would bring a chart, something simple. I'm 15, 16 years old. I would bring it to Bobby and say, "Okay, how did I do?" And he would say, "Okay, this is pretty good, but you could have did this, and you could have tied that in, and this is a dotted this, and that's that." And I went, "Oh," and then I would rewrite it. And then I started writing my own pieces, my own ensemble pieces. And it was great. It was great. I owe a lot to Bobby Craig and Ricky Mangum, a lot to Ricky Mangum for letting me stay at his house so many nights.
Oh my God. And so did you guys do any like traveling for competitions, or was it all local competition?
No, we did. We would go on tour. Here's the thing. Inner city drum corps do not have the financial backing
Right.
that some of the Midwestern corps, some of the corps in New Jersey, most of the middle class, right now, Drum Corps International, DCI, is a middle upper class activity.
Yep.
And when I first came in, there were other circuits, like there was the VFW circuit, there was the Garden State circuit. There were competition levels that were affordable to the smaller drum corps.
Right.
But what happened with DCI is DCI came in like the big bully on the block and just kind of took over, and then all the smaller drum corps just kind of disappeared, and which is a sad thing. And I kind of understand what Dennis DeLucia and the DCI administration was trying to do. and I still get it to this day. But what it did is it kind of sucked the life out of small drum corps and corps that didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
So it's been my goal. It's been my goal to restart drum corps in New York City. I put together an entire business plan many years ago of what the needs are to run a drums corps in the inner city. And I want to hopefully use it as a model, not just for what I'm hopefully going to start, but hopefully that will, spawn other drum corps in other inner cities to get out there and be able to compete and have the finances to do it. Because the talent is absolutely there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There's a couple of folks out there that there's a guy that I met in high school. His name is Harry Vaughn. And Harry Vaughn used to hang out with another guy named Tim. And Tim and Harry had the most amazing hands. Tim ended up going to Garfield, as well as another young man named Michael Jones, and they became stars.
Wow.
Just amazing players like you wouldn't believe. So I'll get it done. Yeah, I hate the term bucket list.
Right.
They just I don't get that. But I'll get it done.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Listen, man, if anybody could do it, you can. You put your mind to.
I'm trying.
You put your mind to it, it's going to happen.
Well, thank you, brother.
Just real quick, some other names that are in here. I don't know if I mentioned. I skipped a couple in the beginning. Eddie Everett's in here saying, "Let's do this."
Nice.
That was early in.
Right.
My buddy Bob Sears is in here. Great student of
hey,
mine
Bob,
and talented friend. And Lucia Seminara, a young female student of mine, is hanging with us tonight.
Hi.
And I know she'll have questions for you. She always does. Bill Donnelly's hanging with us. John Gill from Oneonta, New York, saying hello.
Nice.
And he's got questions. We're going to come back to it.
Okay.
A. Bush Jones. Hey, Ralph. Who's that?
A. Bush Jones is someone that I grew up with who actually manages my restaurant and works with me with the cookie company.
Oh, awesome.
And she was the one who actually picked out my shirt for tonight.
That's great.
Thanks. Yeah. Her name is Allison.
Allison
Bush Jones. Yeah.
Oh, an applause for Allison.
I call her BC.
Oh, BC. Nice.
Yeah.
Allison.
Yeah.
My mom's in here, by the way.
Hi, Mom.
Mom's hanging. Yep, she heard the story about her sleeping on the couch when I was practicing, so her ears were ringing. She jumped in here.
Nice.
Peter Retzlaff is in here with us. Peter's
Nice.
been a guest on the show. He's a great drummer from, originally from Ohio, but he's a New York City guy. And
you said that like it's a bad thing.
No, it's a good thing. But he's not a native. I started to say he was a native, but he's not a native. He's from Ohio. But he's a great guy, great drummer, and he's been on the show. Joey Pinto hanging with us. He's a Staten Island native. Dave Clive.
What's up, Joey?
Dave Clive's hanging with us from Dave Clive's Gretsch Museum.
Nice. That must be killer.
Les DeMerle hanging with us. Les, what's up,
Les?
buddy? Good to have you in here, Les. We got to get you on the show. And I'll get to their questions in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
I mentioned the Lancers before. So did you have an affiliation with the Lancers?
I did, and it was probably the most amazing experience that I had in drum corps. My very last year, well, let me go back. I was asked to come over to the Lancers to teach, and that was by invitation of Ricky Mandel. And he said, "I'm gonna go over and teach the Lancers, and I wanted to know if you wanted to come with me and be my assistant instructor." And I was like, of course, as much as I love to teach, so I worked under him, and we put together the show, and I was still of marching age, and the bug bit me, and the next thing I know, I have a drum on, and I'm now marching assistant instructor in the line, and it felt great to do that. So I did that for 2 years, and then my professional career started, and Bobby Craig got me a slot for my last year in drum corps before I aged out with Santa Clara Vanguards.
Wow.
It was all set to go, and the only time in my life, chickened out.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Which it taught me something moving forward, because I always wanted to march. I tried out for the Bridgman because all my friends was marching in Bridgman. I think I was the last year of high school, and my friends was already in Bridgman. They had marched a year. And I went over and I tried out, and I might have the ability to play snare, but I'm not a snare drummer. I like tenor. I like the fluidity of playing tenor and the tones and just the emotion of that, the drums.
Right.
But they put me on snare, and I just wasn't happy there. It wasn't my thing. So I left, but to finish the story, and not many people know this, after working under Bobby Craig and Ricky Mangum, I felt like I was taking a step back as far as the book was concerned with the Bridgman at that time.
Okay.
Even though they were a championship line, it was the type of playing that wasn't up to the standard of what I thought would push me. The line started to get better years later, and I had already aged out by then. But at that particular moment, I felt strange being better than half of the snare line.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? I'm a kid, and I liked what Ricky was doing. I liked what Bobby was doing, and I wasn't getting that. So I just said, you know what? This is not for me. And that's how I ended up going over to the Lancers, which to some people would go, the Lancers. New York Lancers had some of the best drummers I'd ever played with. I mean, some of these kids were, we were all kids, but they were amazing. There was a kid named David Bowens that most people in drum corps at that time could not stand next to this guy, and he's playing in this local, drum corps. And I was impressed by that. And there were some other guys in the corps too. And I just felt this connection to the Bronx, to the neighborhood, to the Lancers. We had this we can do anything fight attitude. And we knew we were coming in under the 8 ball. We knew that the equipment was substandard. We knew that the uniforms, weren't the best, but we were together. That was the main thing. We fought together, and that was important. And that's why I love the Lancers to this day.
What year was that you got involved with the Lancers? What year do you think that was?
I know exactly what year it was. 1978.
Wow.
And I actually went on tour in 79, because I turned 19, 78, 79, and I did my first professional gig that year. And so now I'm in drum corps and I'm playing professionally at the same time, which is,
oh my God,
which is kind of cool. Yeah.
I have to say just briefly that I think it was 1987. My buddy Al Vatier and I took the train from Brooklyn and we went out to the Bronx. And we went to a Lancers rehearsal. And I remember that we were playing on lunchroom tables at a school. And so we were playing on the tables, and everybody was running warm-ups. And I remember, the warm-ups were really cool. I was hooked. I really wanted to do it. And I was also studying mallet instruments. And so whoever was in charge of the drum line at the time, which I cannot remember, because he was like, oh, you play mallets. And he's like, we need mallet players. And so I wasn't going to be able to play drums. I was going to be playing mallets. And I just didn't want to do it. And so I didn't go back. And I mean, I went for a little bit. And then I was just like, man, I really don't want to be a mallet player in a drum line. And my buddy Al stuck with it for a little bit longer than I did, I think. And then the trip to Brooklyn to do all the rehearsing, he eventually didn't do it either. So neither one of us wound up doing it for very long. But that was my brief association with the Lancers. So when I saw it in your bio, I was like, oh man, I got to ask him about the Lancers.
Well, I just received a message. I got to make a correction. The Falcon Cadets was 1975, which meant I was 14 at the time. 14 turning 15, yeah.
Got it.
And we missed DCI finals by like tenths of a point.
Oh my
It was
God.
it was hard, yeah, tense. You know, it was heartbreaking. We almost made it. You know, but we had a killer drum line. The drum line was really great.
But those experiences, just I mean, first of all the training is amazing, but the togetherness of it, working as a team, there's so many levels to what you get out of that as a kid, right? I mean, from that
Well,
young.
it's the great thing is that these relationships are still a part of our lives today.
Right.
I mean, I can run down the list of the guys that we still are in touch. Not as much as we'd like to because we all have separate lives, but we do speak to each other. Like Ronnie Whaley just hit me up. I speak to Joey Matos. I speak to Ricky often. Michael Araquente, as I said, I just spoke to him. And it's with all drum corps, it's that great camaraderie that goes on for years and years that, I think people just love. And you kind of, when you think back, you get that same feeling again, like you were there.
Right.
And I know it's been years and years, but it's that level of connection. And the cool thing is most of the guys get together every year to go to DCI East. And I made it once about maybe 8 years ago, because every freaking time DCI came up, I was somewhere else.
Right.
So I couldn't go. But the guys do get together. They send photos, and it's cool.
Oh, that's amazing. But the one time you did get to go, how was that experience?
Oh, it was crazy because I got to see this corps called Carolina Crown. And you got to understand, I've been a Santa Clara fan since the first time I ever set eyes on Santa Clara. But there was something about Carolina Crown that was they were so raw and so like, we're going to do this. I actually wrote them a fan letter.
Nice.
And I wrote them a letter and I said, I was just blown away by what I just seen and the level of passion and devotion. I am 100% sure that you will be DCI champions in very short order.
Wow.
And I've never written a letter to anyone like that before, but because these kids impressed me so much. And, there was the big guns out there. You had Blue Devils and, Garfield was out there, or the Cadets, and, as usual, killing. And here comes this corps that most people haven't really heard of. And they were killing folks. So I wrote them a letter and said, listen, I was blown away. They made me feel like the Lancers again, because it was like balls to the wall.
Wow.
And that's how when we was in the Lancers, we knew we didn't have much, but every show it was like, we got to show these people what the hell we can do. And Carolina Crown just gave me that feeling.
Yeah.
And I love them,
Yeah, that's hard, man. That's all here. It's not about the gear and all of the fancy stuff. It's in here.
Yes.
David Garibaldi told me a funny story at the airport yesterday. He said that he went to do a clinic. I think he said the Blue Devils. He was going to do a clinic for the drum line. And he's a funk drummer, right? So he's like coming from his school of playing, and the leader of the band was like, the guys are gonna play for you first, and then you're gonna do your clinic. And he was like, they're gonna play first. Oh, first. And they came out and of course crushed it, and they played, totally flawless and really super impressive. And he said that he just felt like what am I supposed to offer these guys now when I go to play what I do, But
right.
But it's two totally different things, obviously, And David Garibaldi's he's like an alien, he's amazing.
Right.
But he was just saying how it made him feel so weird to go to perform in front of these guys. Before we jump back into sort of the timeline, let's just grab a couple questions because we're sort of like a good time to do it. So all the way back to the beginning, Lucia had a question, and she said, since you've played drums with so many artists as well as bands, what style would you say that you like playing the most, and what style do you like listening to the most? So playing the most, what style, and what style listening the most, and why?
I think I like playing R&B and funk the most. That's just where I'm the most comfortable just performing and hearing. I've learned to play all styles because as you know, as a professional musician growing up in the city where there's thousands of people that do exactly what you do, you got to try to be as well informed and rounded in your craft as humanly possible. But I feel the most comfortable like playing funk or R&B, soul music is just kind of where, just grooving with guys, has always been my thing, so that I would say that's it for me. That's what I like to play.
And what's on your playlist for what you want to listen to the most?
I'm an old school guy, so I can listen to Al Green all day, every day.
Yeah.
I can listen to Ohio players all day, every day.
Right.
I can listen to Kool and the Gang, before Celebration.
Yeah.
All day. No disrespect, Cool, but I think you know what I mean, George. It was just a whole nother
Corny.
world. And no,
What
no, but okay. So here, while we're on the subject, and kind of answers the question, some people thought that when Kool and the Gang went in the other direction, that they were selling out. And I want to say this: if you're trying to sustain a life in music, sometimes it pays to be universal.
Yeah.
And Kool and the Gang wanted to be a universal group, so they were kind of urged, to go in this pop direction.
Right.
And the producer Diodato was the perfect marriage for where they were going.
Right.
So they still, when you see a Kool and the Gang show, they still play all the funky stuff that they do, but they also play the songs that crossed over and went to the pop market, which these men are grown, but they're still out there because of these songs.
That's right.
So it was a business move. It might have been a tough call, but it was a business move.
Yeah. And, if somebody said, oh, yeah, you guys sold out, they'd be like, yeah, we sold out every stadium every time we played.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, right. They did what was necessary to be in the industry.
Yeah.
And just some people who are hardcore Kool and Gang fans like myself, I was like, what the heck are they doing now? Like,
Yeah.
What do you mean, Joanna? What do you mean Celebration? But, I get it. When I started working for a record company, I'm like, I get it. I do get it. So people can now enjoy both.
That's it. Yeah.
So it's different iterations of Kool and the Gang.
Indeed. Let's grab John Gill. He has a two-part question, but I'm going to hold one part of it for later because it's going to tie into my stuff too. But he said, who are some of the most influential drum instructors in your life? So we talked about the guys in drum corps. Did any other instructors come into your life at any point, throughout?
When it came to trap drumming, I never had a teacher. My teachers were the records.
Yeah.
My teachers were the guys that I used to see on Channel 13 on there was a show called Soul.
Yeah.
On Channel 13. And those are my teachers. Mostly was listening to records,
right.
Watching Ricky Williams play, listening to Artie Durant play. The guys in my neighborhood were my teachers, if you want to call them that, because they would, we were just all trying to get through. There was no money for lessons.
Right.
My mother raised 4 kids by herself, so there was no, we as I was growing up, some of my friends from the Bronx and from Manhattan used to always make jokes about the musicians from Queens because they always sounded like they had basements.
Oh my God!
And they had teachers, and you can hear it. You know, it wasn't that I'm taking the 36 bus to EJ Corvettes to buy a 45. Grungy, sound. It was more like, the Polydestrian Dance #2 by Barterton.
Yeah,
It just
yeah,
had more polish on it, and you could hear it. Oh no, he's from Queens. He said, "Where you from?" I'm from Queens. Yeah.
I heard that. Oh my God. That's
So,
funny.
but Queens musicians, and that's the youth in me.
Yeah.
And Queens musicians are some of the most revered musicians in New York City.
Right.
I mean, come on, you got freaking Lenny White.
Yep.
You got Marcus Miller from Queens. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
You got Lizette Wilson. You got some bombs out there. But when you're a kid and you're feeling competitive, you think the Bronx is all that. Hey, you from the Bronx, you did the baddest thing everywhere. So, but it's a different flavor. That's all I would say. It's a different flavor because I've played with practically all the guys out there, and it's just a different flavor, and it works together. It's all about what the music is asking for.
Isn't Bobby Sanabria from the Bronx?
I think Bobby is from the Bronx. Yeah.
Yeah. He's another Bronx guy.
Yeah, the Bronx.
Nick, I always pronounce this wrong. Nick Capoulos, I think I said it right this time, said, "Did you play in church growing up also?"
Briefly. My friend Alan, Alan Breeden, just recently passed away. He asked me to play in the choir that he was in. Oh. So I did play there for a little while, but it wasn't a long period of time. I had, it wasn't the best experience for me.
Got it.
So I decided to step away.
All right.
Yeah.
Eddie Everett asks, when you get a chance, please let me know what records that you played on that I should get.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, man.
There's a few out there. When I was coming up, speaking of, records, we all came up reading album covers.
Right.
All of us. And there were names that just kept showing up. And there was a couple of names that, I knew, and there was a couple of names I didn't know, but I would see their names all the time. And one of the names that I would see all of the time was this guy named Buddy Williams. And I turned over an album cover of something that I loved, and I'm going, who's that? It's like Buddy Williams. Then you put something else on, I'm going, who the heck is that? It's like, oh, that's Buddy Williams. And I'm like, who's Buddy Williams? Who the hell is Buddy Williams? Because I wanted to know who this guy was. And as life has it, I'm living in Bronx River houses, and I'm walking down the street, and a guy walks by with a Zildjian shirt on, of all things. So I have to stop and ask, why do you have on a Zildjian t-shirt?
Right.
And I said, excuse me, are you a drummer? He says, no, I'm a drum tech. And I said, well, who do you tech for? He said, Buddy Williams. I said, who?
What?
He said, yeah, I'm a drum tech for Buddy Williams. I said, Buddy Williams, the guy I've been trying to get to meet like for years, you're the drum tech for this guy. He says, yeah, I am.
Oh my God.
That's how I met Buddy Williams through, his name is Butch. Butch is one of my best friends. And we forged a friendship for years. He was actually my drum tech with Nile Rodgers and Chic for a period. But meeting Buddy, and Buddy is so freaking humble. He's so humble, and he's so ridiculous. It's sometimes I'm in awe of the fact that I can actually text him, or he orders cookies, and nice. We just have like these very casual conversations, some very deep, some very personal, but it's freaking Buddy Williams, this guy that inspired me for so long. I met him through a happenstance relationship that has now been over 20 something years.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
Isn't it crazy? Like that almost feels like, man, that was totally meant to be. That was supposed to happen. You ran into that guy, his drum tech, that was supposed to happen. It all just fell into place. The
craziest thing is he lived in the same building.
Oh, that's even nuttier. Oh my God.
Lived in the same building, like on the 11th floor or something like that. So it was crazy.
Those stories are cool. I'll just tell you a quick, brief little thing just about meeting somebody that I was very inspired by. I was listening to the Bob Mincer Big Band on my stereo in Brooklyn, and I'm looking at the inside of the CD, and there's a picture of Bob Mincer, and he's got like this long leather coat on, and his like sax on his shoulder, and that's the picture. And I'm looking out the window, and there's this guy walking his dog in a long black leather coat with a mustache and the curly hair. And I'm looking at the album, and I'm looking outside. I'm looking back at the CD, and I look outside, and I was like, oh my God, that's Bob Mincer. So I like run outside with the CD, and I go, are you Bob Mincer? And he's like, yeah. I was like, you're walking your dog right here on my block. I go, you're Bob Mincer. And he said, yeah. He goes, I live right there. He lived across the street from me. And I became really friendly with him after that, and actually got to watch Peter Erskine track Art of the Big Band and go to the studio and watch that. And I got to know Bob really well. So that was an amazing little moment. But it's cool
Nice.
when you follow your instinct and you know, you go for it. You go to talk to somebody, and it turns out to be something, you know, that's either inspirational or life changing, like it was for you.
Well, yeah, that was a very life-changing moment. Ricky Mangum, speaking of life-changing, the very first recording session I'd ever done, very first, Ricky asked me, I don't know who asked him, but they asked him to play on a record for a producer named Miko Monardo. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Miko Monardo, but he had a huge disco hit back in the day with a song that he did called Star Wars. It was a disco version
Right.
of Star Wars. The arranger on the song was Harold Wheeler, famous Harold Wheeler. So Ricky and I would always read album credits. I can't remember how he got the gig, but he said, they're asking me to do the side B of this record. Do you want to do it with me? Now, pause. I have been a huge Steve Gadd fan. Back in the 70s, Steve Gadd, my friends and I, Artie, Durant, myself, Kenny Drew Jr., his father's a great jazz pianist, and another gentleman, I think, I can't remember his name, but we found out that Steve Gadd was sick, and we also knew where he lived. So the fact that we were fans of Steve Gadd, we came up with this plan that we were going to go down to his house just to wish him well, but knock on his door and pretend that we were looking for a rehearsal studio. We were kids, teenagers.
Oh my God.
So we go down he lived on 30th Street at the time, between 7th and 8th Avenues. So we go to his house and we knock on the door, and so some guy opens the door, and we all, you know, little doe-eyed little kids say, is this a rehearsal studio? And the guy says no, and he starts to close the door. And one of us said, I don't know if it was me, I said, well, to be honest with you, we know Steve Gadd lives here, we know he's sick, we just wanted to tell him get well. And the guy paused and he looked at us and he said, well, actually, I'm his doctor, and he's here.
What?
And let me see. Yeah, he had pneumonia and he was really sick. He said, let me see if he wants to come to the door. So the door closes. 2 minutes later, he comes out, and who opens the door but Steve Gadd?
Whoa.
And
That's
you got it.
amazing.
All four of us kind of were like this. Like, he said hello, but I don't know what came out at that point.
Yeah, nobody said anything.
Right. So he said, thank you so much. He asked all of our names, you know, and we were just in awe that Steve Gadd was standing in front of us, right? So a short time later, Ricky calls me to do this recording. The recording happens to take place at Power Station, one of the biggest studios in probably the East Coast.
Right.
The owner, Tony Bon Jovi, which is the cousin of Bon Jovi himself. We're in the big room with Miko Monardo, where they do all the orchestra work. And I'm just in awe that I'm in the studio, just completely in awe. Outside the studio, there was like a little refreshment area, had a coffee machine and water. And I go out there, and out of the studio that he was in there with Bob James, Richard T, and Eric Gale, I believe, was Steve Gadd. And he's standing right next to me. And I don't know, right at that point, I'm like making tea or whatever. And I keep going like this. And he can see me out his peripheral. And he goes, hey. And I go, do you remember me? That's all I said. I didn't even say hello. And he looks at me, he goes, were you one of the kids? He said this, were you one of the kids that came to my house?
Oh my God.
And I said, I was. He said, so what's going on? I said, I'm recording over here with Miko Monado and Harold Wheeler. Now I was so young that Miko just took a liking to me. And then he invited me to the string session at, what was the studio on 57th Street that used to be a church? Is it Media? Not Media.
No.
But that's where the string section was. So now I'm sitting in on this arrangement that he had done, which was, I think it was Somewhere Over the Rainbow. It was amazing. So if you want to hear the first recording I ever did, it's the B-side of a song by Miko called Superman. And the song is called The Amazing Amazon, that was composed by Ricky Mangum and myself. Yeah. And it's a drum corps thing, but it's like a whole thing that we put together.
Oh my God.
So Steve has a memory, I realized at that point, like a vice.
Wow.
And anytime I would see him or see me, he was very nice to me. Now I'm growing, doing different things. Now I'm a musical director for Toshi Kubota. People might not know Toshi, but he's a big, huge star in Japan.
I have questions. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's Steve Gadd was the one that talked to me because he was next door with Paul Simon. And we broke at the same time. He comes out, we just start chatting it up. At that moment, I was so busy. I was doing the Apollo. I was doing Showtime at the Apollo. I was doing the Caroline Ray show on ABC. And he said, well, what's going on? I told him I'm band leader over here. I'm doing this, that. And he said, well, what drums do you play? And I said, anything anybody puts in front of me. I'm not endorsed. I never really, at one time I wanted a Pearl endorsement. That was years ago, but it never happened.
Right.
But he said, give me a number and somebody will call you tomorrow. And I thought it was a nice gesture. I really did. So the next morning I was doing the Caroline Ray show. My phone rings and it's somebody from Yamaha. And he says, hey, how you doing? I said, fine. He said, Steve Gadd gave me a number. He said, welcome to the family. That was it.
Wow. That's awesome.
And so anytime I'm anywhere that Steve Gadd is playing, I am like the crazy guy in the audience.
Right.
Last time I saw him was in Japan and the audiences are subdued, pretty laid back. And I'm sitting to Steve Gadd's stage left and the drums are angled and he's doing his thing. And everything he does, I'm going,
you're yelling your head off.
Like, and people are, they don't even turn around and go, shh, they just kind of sit there like this. And I'm losing it like a New Yorker. I'm just done.
Yeah.
Went backstage, spoke to him, we talked about drum corps.
Oh my God.
Craziness, man. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's how I ended up getting with Yamaha, yeah.
Woo. Wow, that was a great story.
Thank you.
And everybody has so much love for Steve Gadd, whether you know him or not. Just him as a player and as a person. Actually, Peter Retzlaff has a really good Steve Gadd story too that I should have asked him about when he was on the show, because he actually spoke to him on the phone, and Steve Gadd took a bunch of time to really give him advice about coming to New York and playing here, and he was just really generous with his time. Jim Mola says, does Ralph have a pair of sticks I can borrow? Jim, what's wrong with you?
Okay. No. I'm going to tell you why he's saying that, because I was heading out on tour and I couldn't get any sticks from Vader at the time. So I called Jimmy, and Jimmy met me under I-95, seriously, right off of Pelham Bay near Co-op City. It looked like we were doing a drug trade, I swear. Because both of our cars pull up and he comes out with all of these things. Yo, I got this one over here. I got this one over here. Shh, keep it down. Keep it down. All right. What do you need? So that's what he's referring to. He gave me a whole bunch of sticks that I obviously took.
My God.
But yeah, that's
Hey,
Jimmy was the guy who got me the Vader endorsement, by the way.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. By the way, you said that you think you may have heard him singing on something, right? Did you
Recently, I
figure
just
out?
heard a commercial. It was like
Oh,
a kind of
commercial.
yeah, it was a jingle, and it sounded like Jimmy. I don't know, I can't remember what it was, and it went by so fast. But after I said, "Man, that sounds just like Jimmy." I don't know
Right.
if that's him, but he's a you know he sings, right?
Yeah, yeah, I've heard him sing. Yeah, for sure.
I've been threatening to do a big band hip hop album with like some of the classic hip hop songs with him singing in big band style. I think it would win a Grammy.
That would be amazing.
You know? I think it would kill. I really do.
Let him do a ukulele solo somewhere on the record.
Don't tell me. Does he play? He plays ukulele.
Yeah, he did a ukulele record of Beatles stuff. Ask him
I don't
about
know if I should laugh or like.
that. He's like, "Is that true?" Yeah, that's true. Um,
Wow.
let me see. There's
All I can say is wow.
Magication One. I'm not sure who that is. Awesome, my brother.
Ma-
Giant blessings.
Magication One is his name is Mark Dunstan. He's a magician. He's a very good magician.
Oh, cool.
Travels all over the country, and we happen to be business partners now. Which I'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Ah, awesome. All
Yeah.
right.
So thank you, Mark, for tuning in, brother.
And going back a little ways, Peter Retzlaff said, agreed on pre-celebration, no hating though. Um, um, oh, yeah, yeah. Ricky said media sound. You were right before. It was media
It was
sound.
media.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we went there, and I think the arrangement he was doing was somewhere over the rainbow. I think I don't know exactly, but Harold Wheeler at that point, I just it was love because the man is such a great arranger.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he was the musical director on Dancing with the Stars for many, many years.
Oh, okay.
You know, so I was honored to get the one chance to play, you know, on something he arranged. You know,
Nice. And I guess I'll read one more. JNZ36 said, first heard Steve Gadd's playing on the Steely Dan album and was hooked from then. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
it's not hard to get hooked on Steve Gadd.
No, no, man. Oh my God. Actually, remember when Chick did his 75th, you know, basically his 75th birthday anniversary shows at the Blue Note. I saw Steve play. They were doing Friends, and so it was Eddie Gomez and Steve Gadd. This is only a few years back. I don't know how many years it was now, but it was a few years back. But he was still playing, of course, incredibly, with such energy and just so amazing. I sat right behind him, watched him, you know, closely.
You know, the thing that I learned about Buddy Williams, Steve Gadd, Harvey Mason, Bernard Purdy, some of the, you know, the drummers that I've idolized for so long, Ricky Williams, is that there was nothing more important than what the music was asking for.
Right.
It was never about who they were as players. It was always about what the music is asking for. And that was something, like when you watch any of them play, you can see them trying to access the importance of each song.
Right.
So the thing that I've learned to do is have a relationship with each song that I'm playing, because to me, it has nothing to do with me. It has all to do with the song. It has all to do with what I'm trying to access within that song. Whatever canvas that we're trying to paint, and everybody has their brushes and their paint, and we're all trying to make this beautiful portrait together, is that I don't come in and go, yeah, you know, and paint all over everybody else's stuff, and just try to stay within the confines and the lane of the song.
Right.
And, you know, what I've seen of late is there are so many guys who, they're amazing. And I appreciate their amazingness. But I do sometimes get frustrated at the fact that they're forgetting that they're playing a song,
Right.
and they have to be a part of the ensemble, and they're playing more to being seen,
Yeah.
as opposed to being heard. If you know, I think you know what I mean.
Serve the song.
You know, So that's the whole thing. It's a humble place to be, you know. So anytime you hear these masters play, it's all about accessing what's good for the song.
Right.
What can I give to this song that is great? Not what's great for me, but what's great for the song. It's a different approach. It's a different place, you know, in an attitude.
Look at speaking of Steve Gadd, if you listen to Chucky's in Love, you know, there's the one riff that everybody goes nuts about with the inverted the inverted doubles that he did.
Right.
But like the rest of the song and that moment is like that's like there's some sprinkles and icing. You know, that's like right in the middle of that song. It was just that right moment and he played something that everybody just was astounded by. But the rest of the song, he's just serving the song so she can sing the story effectively, and it's grooves like nobody's business, but it's so simple. And
So simple.
yeah, and he just played what the song asked him to play.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and when I'm teaching, the goal is to get people to understand that, you know, and just find an emotion within themselves that is it's just asking to be humble. Because I think the more humble you are to the music, the more you'll serve the music in a way that is important, you know. And it's not about you. The one and only time I went to NAMM, there was a young drummer there that I was crazy. I saw some of the things that he was doing that was good for the music for what he was doing. And he was sitting next to another drummer that I admired, I couldn't believe how competitive one guy was towards this young drummer. Wow. Because I went over to the booth because we're both Remo artists, and I said, dude, you came on the scene and you are doing some amazing stuff, you know. And he turned away to sign an autograph, and the other guy said, wait till you hear my record, that ain't nothing. Oh, and I was blown away by that attitude. It actually hurt my feelings because that's not why I personally became
right.
a musician. Some of my closest musical friends, my brothers, my sisters, are drummers. Abe Fogle, Harvey Morris, Harry Vaughn, Tim Green. You know, we all share Ricky Mangum. I mean, all of us are drummers. And for example, Abe Fogle, Dennis Davis, Brian Dunn.
Brian, yeah.
You know, we have all shown up to the same auditions and have rooted each other on with so much love and truth.
I love that story you told me when we were on the phone like a month ago. You told me that story about you guys all going for that same audition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was and what was so amazing about it is, you know, those who do not know Dennis Davis was a drummer for Stevie Wonder for many years. He also was a drummer with Roy Ayers and on a bunch of records. And if you want to hear, Dennis Davis is a drummer on Stevie Wonder's song Do I Do. And everyone loved Dennis, you know, great guy. Sorry to say he passed away from cancer, but I got a call. Should I tell the story?
Yeah, man. That's a great story.
I'm going to tell it as it actually happened.
All right.
I got a phone call from a gentleman who was a writer, composer, did a lot of stuff for TV. He says, I need for you to put together a band for this new TV show. And it's your gig. And I went, great. I know exactly who to get. I could see the band already. And then like a few minutes later, I get a phone call back from the same guy, said, false alarm, it's not happening. And I was like, wow, that was on and off the table quick. And then a few minutes later, I get a call from another guy saying, listen, do you know any white drummers? And I, you know, at first I was like, what? Like what is a white drummer? Like, you understand? Like, it's a drummer. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And the first name that came out of my mouth was Brian Dunn, right? So he says, well, give me his number. I give him Brian's number. And it's for the audition for a new show called The Caroline Ray Show. Now, I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is all about because I didn't know the white drummer thing, but I was under the impression that they wanted a white drummer for the chair. I'm like, fine, I am not white. The last time I checked, I'm quite the chocolate guy. So, but I get my other friend, Alec, on the audition as a keyboardist, right? So me and Alec, I've known him for years, watched his kids grow up. We go and we go shopping. He gets the whole hair done and the clothes, and I drive him into the city. And when I go in to the audition, I'm looking on the floor, and I know that Will Calhoun had played this very strange instrument. I can't remember what it was. And I'm saying, wow, that looks like Will Calhoun's thing. And who walks in but Will Calhoun? And I'm like, hey, yo. He said, what's up? He said, are you here for the audition? I said, no. I said, are you here? He said, yeah. Now, Will and I are the same chocolate hue. You know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of now messed up on this whole, white drummer thing. It's like, did he not get the memo on this thing? So I'm a little bit perturbed. And as I'm walking out, in walks Dennis Davis. And I'm like this, oh, what the hell? I said, Dennis. I said, you're here for me? He said, yeah. So there was an assistant who had a pad of all the people that were auditioning. And I got a glimpse of the pad, and there were double spots because they didn't have enough drummers to audition. So I'm like, excuse me, I'm a drummer. Is it possible that I could, get an audition? So the guy looks at me with this kind of deadpan face, and he says, let me check. And he goes inside and he asks the musical director, which is Carlos Alomar, and comes out and he goes, no, sorry. So I leave, and I'm with a friend of mine, and I drive all the way uptown to 126th Street, right behind the Apollo. I'm pissed because I'm driving like, I can't believe I can't get an audition. So I drop her off, and I'm like, nah, that's not my personality. I'm going back. So I go all the way back downtown to SIR, and I'm like, I'm getting in. I don't know how I'm getting in, but I'm getting in. So I pull over, and standing out front was a guy that I knew years before when he had super long hair, was in a rock band and played bass. And somehow we became friends and remained friends. So I saw him, and I'm like, James, what's going on? He said, how you doing? I said, you're not going to believe this crap. That's not the word I use. I said, I was told that I couldn't audition, and they were looking for white drummers, and Dennis Davis is here, Will Calhoun is here, and they're definitely as black as I am. So somebody lost the message here. He says, well, I'm associate producer on the show. Let me see what I can do. So I'm like, okay. So he walks in. 2 minutes later, he comes out. He says, you're next. And right at that moment, I'm like, I don't have sticks. I don't have anything. So I go inside. Dennis is finished. I said, dude, I'm about to audition. I have nothing. He said, bro, listen, my foot pedal is back there. My sticks are back there. Use whatever you want. It's not a problem. And I go inside, and Carlos, I don't know Carlos Alomar. Carlos Alomar doesn't know me. And I sit down, and there's a chart, and we start playing. And as I'm playing, the entire production crew and Caroline Ray walks in. And as soon as they walk in, he goes, all right, stop. All right, thank you very much to me. And I'm like, well, I hardly didn't get a chance to play. So I'm like, okay, I accomplished what I came to do. I got the audition, right? I walked out. I thanked the production crew. I thanked Caroline Ray, and I left. I wait for Alec. He was very upset because he didn't have a really good audition. One of the charts wasn't written right, and he pointed it out, and I don't think Carlos liked that. So he says, dude, let me take you to dinner because, it was just very nice. So we drive uptown to 8th Avenue. He says, there's a Japanese restaurant that I really like. And there's this girl that works there who's completely beautiful, and you got to see this girl. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we go in, and as soon as we walk in, I stop and I look at this girl, and I realized that this girl he was talking about was my ex-girlfriend. That I thought she left and went back to Japan. And so she's looking at me and I'm looking at her. She says, surprised? And I'm like, yeah. So now I'm trying to eat dinner and really can't eat because I'm wondering what the hell, anyway. So we finished dinner and he wants to go down the street to this club. And I want to go home at this point, but I go to the club with him and he's in there and he's having a conversation and I'm sitting there kind of waiting. And then my phone rings and the music is too loud. So I go outside and he says, hi, this is Carlos Alomar. And the first thought was, he's calling me to say, you didn't get the gig. Sorry. He says, so you got the gig. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 7:00, Rockefeller Center. And I'm like, what? I got the gig. So out of just sheer shock and emotion, I just bust out crying. And the first person I call is my sister who passed away, Yvette, because she used to be a painter. And I called her up and I go, Yvette. And she's going, what happened? Because I sound like something's wrong. She's like, calm down. Oh my God, what's the matter? I'm like, I'm fine. I said, I just got the gig for this new show on ABC. She was like, oh, it's so good. So I ended up getting the show. Carlos gets let go, and I get put into the band leader position for the TV show. And who they bring in? Chris Bodie. So he was the guy that replaced Carlos Alomar, and it was crazy, but I ended up getting the gig.
That's amazing.
It's kind of freaking crazy how music is sometimes.
And that also, just to your point in the beginning, just shows how drummers come together in such a different way. We're a weird, crazy extended family. Your buddy lent you the stuff to do the audition, and you got the gig, and he did not.
And I recommended Brian.
Right. And
Brian and I are the closest of close and always have been. Like, I love my relationship with Abe Fogel, like, so much, because Abe and I have come up in the R&B world and we've watched each other play. We've watched each other, and I've been backstage rooting him on, screaming. He's been backstage rooting me on. And, we've had over the years extremely personal, deep conversations about, we're really close like that. Even if we don't talk for 6 months, I know when I talk to Abe, the love is so genuine and real, and it's just a great thing. It's with all my musician friends, it seems, that I have great relationships, mostly drummers.
You're also a really good person. That helps a lot. And that helps in the industry.
There's some people out there that might not agree with you, but I try my best to be good. I try.
Right. I have a lot of other music-related questions, but I want to take a detour briefly.
Yes.
And I want to talk about your business. And by the way, John Gill earlier, I'm just scrolling back real quick, said, what qualities do you believe an entrepreneur needs to be successful?
I would say the first thing is, if you want to be an entrepreneur and you find the passion as to what you want to do, that the first thing you do is you take away the expiration date, because passion has no expiration date. I don't care how many years it will take. If you believe in it, you'll stay at it. And you'll keep learning from your triumphs. You'll learn from your mistakes, but you will keep at it. And if you do that, you will learn more, and you will not get frustrated, and you will continue on. And that's what I have to say about, being an entrepreneur. It's not an easy ride.
Right.
It's not a cakewalk. For some people, they're lucky, but that's like the lottery. That's how small of a percentage that luck is. The people that I know that are entrepreneurs, they've been in whatever they've been in for sometimes decades, and then they would, go back to the drawing board if it fell apart, figure out what went wrong, work on it, fix it, and then come back again. And that's what you do. I don't know. Again, you got to first erase the expiration date and go with your passion. And that's what it's all about.
That's a life lesson for everything, really. That
Mm-hmm.
philosophy you have for business, because for musicians, it's the same thing. You just keep at it. We do it because we love it. That's first and foremost. I think we're drummers because we love playing the drums. It's not the end goal. Maybe when you started as a teenager, you had some thoughts, but the reason we keep at it is because we really love it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, or at least for me, the thought wasn't like, I'm going to become a billionaire being a drummer. I was just like, I just want to play drums the rest of my life. And I'm fortunate enough that I'm able to make my living in and around everything related to drums every day of my life. Can't take that for granted.
No.
So,
and there, I think what happens, and I've learned this from teaching, for some drummers that are looking at things a little differently, the grass is always greener on the other side. And it frustrates them if they feel like they're not accessing what someone else is doing. When the beauty about being a musician, especially a drummer, is that when you access that information, it's your information. My information is not Buddy Williams' information. I have definitely learned so much from Buddy. I mean, so much from watching him on live, listening to him on records. It's an inspiration to pull from them and give them credit for what I pulled from.
Yeah.
But at the same time, because my DNA is different from his DNA is different from Steve's. Steve is different from Harvey's and Peter's and everyone down the line. You start to access that information your way,
right,
for that song. So it's all different. But when you start comparing yourself to other people and other things, that's when the frustration comes in.
Absolutely.
That to me, that's just how I see it. I mean, I was never first call. For many years, I was never first call. And I was okay with that. I was okay with the fact that I had a gig. I was okay that they might have called somebody else and that somebody else was busy and they called me. That didn't damage my ego. I'm just glad they called me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So, and the same thing on down the line. I would, I would call other drummers to do gigs, and then they would, if that person wasn't available, I'd call somebody else. But it's not damaging to their egos either, my favorite guys.
Right.
It's just, we're all grateful to be able to pass gigs around and, glad that we can, pay some bills.
100%.
Not become billionaires. I've sat down in session, one-to-one sessions with drummers who didn't want to play in front of me. And I'm like, dude, okay, first of all, I'm about to go to the bathroom probably the same way you are, and I guarantee that I'm no different. You're here for a reason, but some drummers just wanted to talk and have a therapy session. And most times it's about that grass is greener approach. And I try to tell them all the time, your access is your access. If you're a weekend warrior, have all the fun. If you want to learn new stuff, ask questions about it and apply it and keep it moving. But don't tear yourself down because this guy's doing, 30-second note rolls for 10 minutes.
Right.
That's not you. It's not me.
Yeah, that's drummers can be their own worst enemies in that way, like doing that comparing game. It's like you have to be present and in the moment and access, like you said, access what you have. You have to be honest with yourself and realistic where you're at. It's great to want to, get to by studying and applying, but like you really have to access where you're at now and appreciate where you're at now.
Let me tell you something. There's a drummer that, I grew up in the same, like Abe Fogel, myself, Danny Atherton, Poogie Bell, Bernard Davis, who is the master of masters, out here. And what I learned about watching, like, for example, when I would watch Poogie play, what makes Poogie so great at what Poogie does is his level of patience when it comes to a song.
Right.
Poogie will get into a pocket and then put the pocket inside the pocket.
Nice.
And just stay there and make the song. Everyone around him has a nice place because he set the foundation. And that's one thing that when I see Poogie, I've always loved about Poogie Bell. The guy that I got to mention, and I mentioned just a moment ago, is Bernard Davis. I don't know if anybody out there knows Bernard Davis, but when I tell you, every time he sits down behind a set of drums is a masterclass. I used to go down to a club called The Cellar. Only, well, two reasons. But one of the reasons was because he was there. And I would watch this guy and I would go, man, he's keeping the groove and he's doing all of this other great work while keeping the groove. And I said, I want to do that. I want to be that. I want to know how he's doing that. And I would really like want to know. And he was that guy for me. Bernard Davis was that guy. And I think a lot of drummers that know Bernard that's watching this will definitely, put their fist in the air and be like, you're damn right.
Yeah, Mola just said, yeah. Badass.
Oh,
yeah.
Freaking out. I love, if you want to go down, if the Sugar Bar's open, I think he plays on either Tuesday or Thursday night. I can't remember. But if you want to see some killer drumming, go see Bernard Davis. That guy is, it's one of these to everybody. Everybody's not worthy. First time I saw Steve Jordan, I had that feeling. The first time I saw Charlie Drayton, I had that feeling. Yeah. I'm like, these guys, Poogie Bell, when I saw them, it's like there's a patience about their pocket. Like Steve Gadd, Harvey, right. There's a patience that they're not trying to give you too much, but they give you what is needed. And you just go, I'm safe with these great players. They make it happen. And I wanted to be that, and eventually I could get the call and get another call. And then when I got to the Apollo, it was a changing experience for me because I started working with Ray Chu. And Ray Chu was a young prodigy that he went off the scene for a moment and came back and had the determination of a freaking panther and worked his way to the top. And now is the musical director for Dancing with the Stars. And I worked with him in the trenches, I would say, at the Apollo Theater. Me and Vincent Henry, my boy, we laugh about it because I used to call it Hell Week. So we would do an entire season in 4 days. And Ray would write the fastest charts that I'd ever seen in the history of my life. And we would have to now interpret that, but luckily the charts were accurate. We'd start at 6 a.m. and sometimes we wouldn't finish until 1 a.m.
Wow.
But it was a great training and proving ground for everything moving forward. We eventually parted ways, but we're great friends. And I went on to work with Nile, which has been the most amazing part of my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah. You did 9 or 10 seasons?
About that.
With the
I
Apollo?
can't even remember how long. Yeah. It was quite a long. I worked at the Apollo for 17 years on the Wednesday night amateur night.
Yeah.
And I think we did the TV show for about 9 or 10 seasons. I don't know exactly.
Did you do the amateur night thing in the 80s?
No.
Because my band leader, I played in a club date band. Brian Dunn played in the same club date band briefly. He was a sub for that band. He actually played my daughter's wedding with that band because, of course, I couldn't do the gig. So my daughter was getting married, so he subbed. But the singer of that band, this guy George Dorenzi from Jersey City, New Jersey, did the amateur night at the Apollo. I think probably in the mid '80s. Looking at his haircut, Harvey was the MC, right? So, what year would that have been? Let me think.
Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that was when Steve. Okay, when Steve Harvey started was the year that Ray Chu and the Crew started,
Oh,
which was somewhere. I was somewhere in the early '90s, I believe it was.
oh, okay.
Yes, it was. It was the early. It was around 90. I want to say 95, 96, somewhere around there. I believe it was. I could be wrong. And then when I left, Brian came in and started working with Ray doing their power shows.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So
So it probably was before that.
yeah, yeah. So because I've watched the clip a whole bunch of times. But anyway, so he sang "Reasons" by Earth, Wind and Fire, and it was pretty funny because George Dorenzi, who was our band leader from Jersey City, had a food truck, and that was like his, he was doing music and he had a food truck, and Steve Harvey's like, what kind of food do you guys make? And he's like, soul food. And Steve Harvey's like, he goes, he's smart. He goes, he's smart too, because he was like the only white guy on the show for the night, But he sang Earth, Wind and Fire really, really well. And
didn't he win?
And he won. Yeah, he won that night.
I remember that.
Yeah. So that was our band leader. So that was my little Apollo story from my club date band. But yeah, George Dorenzi, great voice, by the way. Yeah, I was wondering if you were in the house band when he did that.
Yeah. I was for sure.
Yeah, that was a funny clip. Cool, man. So, all right, let me read two more right here. Oh, Jim Mola, yeah, Bernard Davis, badass, and then Vaughn Fam Music. Wait, hold on. Vaughn Fam Music. He said Ralph Rolle was my first real drum teacher. The information that he imparted will last a lifetime. So, Vaughn, tell us your full name so I could tell Ralph who you are. Vaughn Fam Music. Oh, Harry Vaughn.
Okay. Let me tell you. Harry, as I mentioned, I met him when he was still in high school.
Right.
I have quite a few drummers that I've mentored over the years. And he was one of those guys. Harry has a twin brother named Barry who has ridiculous hands too. But
Wow.
when they started growing up, they went in different directions. Harry is still a professional drummer and has the sweetest gig in New York City, which I used to always like, dude, how in the hell did you land the sweetest gig your first time out? And I'll tell you in a second what that gig is.
Okay.
And Barry went into law enforcement.
Oh.
So he's a New York City detective. And I'm still very close to both of them. I just spoke to Harry yesterday.
Oh my God.
But Harry came straight out of school, high school, I believe it was, and he auditioned for a church in Manhattan. And he said to me very nonchalantly when he came back, he said, "Yeah, I got the gig, and they're paying me this, and I get vacation pay, and I have a pension and dental, and all all of this stuff, and I have a studio, and they give me an expense account, and I'm looking at him, and while he's talking, I'm going like this, like, and I'm like, dude, you landed the gig of a freaking lifetime. So he's literally been on that gig ever since.
Really?
It's got to be at least 20 years he's been on the gig. But he's killer. He does sessions. He was my drum tech for a minute. That was a long time ago. Now that he's a very happily married man with 3 beautiful, beautiful children. And I'm so glad that I can, sometimes I go between calling my brother and my son. I call him my son because that's how I feel about him. But then that means, I'm old. So then he's my brother. So, but he landed the killer drummer gig, and it's been great for him.
He said 24 years.
He said 24 years.
24 years.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the day he told me, he was so, I have an expense account and I get vacation pay and I got, dental and medical, and and I'm going. I hate you right now.
Oh my God. That's amazing. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
Harry, congrats on the gig of a lifetime that you kept for 24 years. Smart man.
Yes, very smart.
That's great, man. Oh my God. All right, so we got to talk cookies.
Okay.
Now, I got to ask you, well, first of all, I think I know the answer to this, so I'm going to take a shot. Your mom really encouraged you kids to be independent, to learn how to cook, to learn how to sew, do your own laundry, you know, and being tough on you obviously gave you the work ethic that you have, to push yourself throughout life. But I think the love of cooking and baking and all this starts in the home, right? With your mother.
It started at home. Started with my grandmother baking cakes, and and I was okay when I was growing up. Um, is my older sister Yvette, my brother Howie, my sister Yvonne, and myself, and my mother's raising us. And this is in the projects. So the thing that I learned about being a father is that I wish somebody would write a blueprint and hand it out, but there's no blueprint. So you try to figure it out every day as to what to do to make sure your kids are being raised right. So my mother having to work sometimes 3 jobs, she knew that the idle mind is the devil's playground. So she kept us in activities as much as humanly possible. So my mother ran the tenant patrol, the tenants association, the garden program, the summer youth program, and at a point she was the crossing guard on the corner.
Oh my God,
So
that's
so
amazing.
so my mother was social networking before there was an actual app for what she did. She
Yeah.
she just took care of it all. But the reason why she did that is because she didn't want us getting involved in doing other stuff. So she had us involved arts and craft, doing garden program, everything, and she was always helping people in the community all the time. I saw my mother write proposals on a constant basis. So because of that, my older sister who passed away, she was a union organizer for 1199, which is one of the biggest hospital unions in the United States. My brother is a retired mechanical engineer. He gave up drumming to take care of his family. And he's a retired mechanical engineer, and he does what all retired people do. He moved to Florida.
Right.
My sister is a retired principal with many awards for education and administrative work. And I'm the professional musician entrepreneur. So she died in 83 from cancer, but I think she would be very proud of all of us for the determination that we put into our lives. But she would not sell for anything less. My mother, I gotta say, my mother didn't put her hands on me much. But the sound of her voice got me in line every time. And most of the kids that I know growing up was the same thing. Their parents were definitely, it wasn't corporal punishment, but the sergeant at arms was definitely in a lot of our houses, because when the lights came on, I know anybody out there who's from New York City, when the lights came on, there was no question where you needed to go, and that was home.
Yep.
Okay,
Oh
so she had that thumb on us, and I was a pretty smart kid. I got skipped a year and got out of school early.
my God. Wow.
But I just wanted to continue to do things to honor her and to be as greater of a human being as I possibly could, by continue on, because she wasn't sure about the music thing. She thought it was a bad idea because I was going to go to Pratt Institute and follow my brother's footsteps to be a mechanical engineer. But after taking years of it in school, one day I was sitting in class and I'm like, what am I doing here? This is not for me.
Right.
I want to play drums. And I went home and I told my mother, I said, I know what I want to do in life. I want to be a drummer. And she said, you just lost your mind. Drumming is not for you. It's like, you're smart. You should be doing, you see, when you come from the South and that at that time, and you're Black, it was about a job. You need a job. You need benefits. You need a job. And I got it because coming from the South, it was so difficult to come north and have so much opportunity and to be a smart kid. And she thought drumming was a throwaway, but I wanted to prove her wrong. So I practiced a lot, and my family would come out and see me play at some of the craziest places in New York City. But it worked out in the long run. And the cookies was just me watching her bake, watching my grandmother bake, and me being a shy kid and wanting to meet girls. So I would bake for them.
Right. By the way, Ricky said Miss Rolle was no joke, but a beautiful soul with much wisdom. And JNZ36 said, I remember Miss Rolle as the crossing guard. I forgot about that. So yeah. Much love, man.
Yeah, she was a good person, but she wasn't. I tell you, she was everyone in the neighborhood. If my sister's watching, she's probably gonna laugh. Because everyone in there, oh, your mother's so nice. I'm like, that's not your mother. You don't understand. That lady, when you close that door, she will tear your head off.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's like
she would actually take your head, tear it off, and put it in your hand, so you can, like.
It's like people say that they're like, oh, your mother's so sweet. You're like, yeah, try living with her. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Yeah.
There's this thing my mother used to do that would crack me up. We would be acting up, especially my sister Yvonne and myself. We'd be making noise and doing that. She would be on the phone talking to somebody, and she had this laugh that she wasn't really like a real laugh, but it was a laugh to the person on the phone. But at the same time, she's looking at us going like this.
You knew.
With this look like, you better calm your earth down before don't you see I'm on the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, we remember those days of Rose Roll.
Oh my God. So it started, and you told me on the phone that the last time we had spoken, you said that you were baking for girls. That's kind of one of the things that made you start pursuing it a little bit, right?
Right. Well,
I mean,
because it worked.
That's
it
so
worked.
smart.
Yeah, because all of my friends, to me, Aaron, Artie, Alan, they were all cool to me. I never felt cool. I was a smart, nerdy kid in school,
right? And
I needed something, an in. So my thing was, bake a little something, and then, oh, that's so sweet. I'm like, I'm in. I got you. So.
Plus, you smell like cookie dough.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't high karate I was wearing. It was cookie dough. And so after my mother passed away, my production company moved in, and we started doing production in my house.
Right.
The first round of production was my friend Rick Robinson.
Right.
And we worked on different things and was trying to we got one song out, which is we did a parody song, Rick and I. He's a funny guy, called Roxanne's a Man.
Really?
At the time I hated hip hop, so I wanted to do anything to just kind of mock hip hop.
Yeah.
So we wrote something called Roxanne's a Man, and it's so silly. You'll hear it. The lyrics, basically, Roxanne went to jail, and then got turned out, and then Roxanne was people didn't know Roxanne was a man. It's stupid. It's funny, but it got it out there, and And he started doing some writing. Then I started working with my other guys, Armando Colon and Gerard Harmon. And we kind of went to the next level, and then we started doing stuff for High Five and doing remixes. And then we started doing jingles and commercials and things of that sort. And I one day went in and said, you know what, I'm going to bake some cookies. And they both looked at me like, you okay? And I'm like, what do you mean am I okay? It's like, what do you write? So why are you baking cookies? I'm like, because I like to bake cookies. So I went and brought the cookies in the studio, and they was like, hey, yo, make sure you have these cookies now every time we come over. So now my girlfriend moved in, and we decided to make cookies for the holidays. We sent it out because we didn't have enough money to buy gifts. So we had about 36 people on the list, and we sent them the cookies, and everybody said the cookies are great. You should think about selling them. And we started selling the cookies. The first place I sold them was a restaurant called Sylvia's, which is a place next door called Sylvia's also. And Melba, who has Melba's restaurant, which is an amazing restaurant you guys need to get to. I told her, I said, Melba, you're running the open mic. I'm the drummer. Is it possible me and Marisol could bring the cookies in? And she said, fine. And we didn't know what we were doing. We took the we took a label I made of my project building, and I put a rainbow over the building. And the first iteration of the cookies, it's just fun, is I'm from the ghetto, so we called them ghetto cookies. and it was it was funny. So we took them down to the club. Shelby Johnson, who you know from Prince, the bald head girl in Prince, was the singer MC for the night. And she introduced the cookies, and Mike Phillips, the saxophone player who also played with Prince, we was all playing the open mic together. So they saw the first time we ever did the cookies. And at the bar was a guy from YSB magazine. Everybody bought the cookies. They loved them. Did an article. Marisol, also from public housing, was a Juilliard graduate. And I'm on TV. So they thought it was a great story. And from there, it just kind of took off. She eventually didn't want to have anything to do with me or the cookies, and she left. I tried to run it for a while, and I couldn't continue on. And then I started later on where we are now. So it's been a hell of a ride. But come this February, I have partners that I have to, can just talk about. But the cookies are rolling out in 3,600 stores in February.
Holy moly.
In 2 stores 3,600 stores that so many people know these 2 stores. And we just launched the other day at the Woman ice skating rink.
Oh, wow.
So the cookies are there. So we also bake for a huge company called Great Performances, which they get a lot of cookies from us. And we sell on the internet, and it's, we're hoping to move. My partner's in town as of today, and I want to take them by to show them the new place that we want to move to. And it's the cookies are going crazy. So I'm really excited about that. And back to the entrepreneur thing. It's been 27 years.
Whoa. 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
See that?
Yeah.
See that, kids? You got to keep at it. You got to keep at it. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Just on the side note, the Whispers' first song, the group The Whispers' first hit song didn't come out until 20 years after they started the group. So That's just to show you, when you have passion for something, you just don't put an expiration date on it. You keep going until you can't go anymore.
That's it. Yeah. By the way, Lucia said, does your company ship cookies? Yes, they do. Right?
We do ship cookies, but the cookie shipping is more expensive than the actual cookies. So we stopped, and we are trying to bring the cookies. I'm talking to someone over in the UK about bringing the cookies over there. The thing that stopped us from talking is this guy does a lot of work, and he's in charge of 3 huge companies, and he's super, super busy. And then COVID, and then Brexit.
Yeah.
But he's definitely someone that is willing to talk, and we're going to talk about bringing the cookies over to the UK.
Wow, that's amazing.
Once we get them on that side of the pond, it'll be easier for people to get, and a lot less expensive. By the way,
just on a side note from before, JNZ36 said Roxanne's a man. LOL. I remember that song. I remember that drum machine and the Chaka song, I Feel For You.
Yeah, that's funny. That other person that I was talking about, I went to the cellar.
Yeah.
She married the guy. I was in love with her, and she married the guy that did the production on I Feel For You.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he did all the drum programming on that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Heartbreaker. She's still my buddy, but
right.
I was heartbroken. I'm sorry. Just give me a minute.
No. That's the other question is like with COVID and owning any kind of a food industry company, and you also have the cafe, right? So how did that impact the company? And I mean, obviously you guys have survived that. But how did that impact you guys?
Well, we opened up the restaurant in August of 2019. COVID hit in March of 2020. We had just started to get our legs up under us and was just trying to figure this whole thing out. And then we ended up having to shut down,
Right.
which was very, very hard. We shut down for 3 months, and we didn't think we was ever going to open again.
Yeah.
The first round of funding for PPP, not many small businesses, not many minority businesses at all got any of that money.
Yeah.
And it was, what happened is the government realized that when people found out that the fix was in for the first PPP round, they immediately started another PPP round. And they said, well, we got to fund all of these small businesses, and that's how we ended up getting open again. But what we learned was, again, you got to have the perseverance and the passion. We stayed in it, but we definitely lost the majority of our foot traffic, and it's never come back. And with everything going on with COVID, we do a great amount of business with Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub, but they take such a huge percentage of your money that it's, they do. That it's really hard to survive. But now there's other companies that are coming around, other delivery services that are a lot more affordable, that we're probably going to change the direction on what we're doing with the restaurant. And I'm close to opening up a place that will just be like a ghost kitchen. Oh. And instead of having one style of food, we would then have 3.
Oh, wow.
So it would be like a seafood Cajun boil. It would be sliders, hamburgers, and it would be soul food.
Wow.
And we're excited about that because the person that I'm working with is the most amazing guy. And I met him through probably one of my closest friends in the world is Vincent Henry. And if you guys want to hear some good music, just Google Vincent Henry. Trust me, everything he played on is freaking amazing. Wow. From Amy Winehouse to movie soundtracks. He was in the group Change. I met him in a bowling alley when I was 18. I told him we was going to be in a band together. Now we get on the phone and we talk for hours. But that he introduced me to this new person, and I think it's going to be okay. I really do. We got past phase 1. We're now in phase 2, and we're excited.
Wow, that's amazing. And the distribution, getting into the Kruger, it was Kruger's, right? Or
Kroger and Walmart.
And Walmart. Yeah. I mean, that's big. That's huge.
Well, it's very big, and I'm very fortunate because the guy, Mark, that was talking about Magication.
Right.
Mark was the guy that called me to put me in touch with him, my partner, and his one of his best friends, who actually found us on the internet. And he started, there was so much information out there about the cookie company and about me, and that he became very interested. He's like, who is this guy? So he called Mark and said, who is this guy? And he said, you worked at the Apollo. Do you know him? And he said, I do know this guy. And he gave me a call and he said, you don't know this other guy, but you need to speak to this other guy because he's very interested in working with you. And he has a team, and he does the team. I am honored. We talked about getting in and the structure of what it takes. The amount of stuff that I didn't know that this gentleman is teaching me and showing me and doing is information that is so valuable to small businesses and communities. I cannot wait to be able to share that amount of information that I'm receiving on a daily basis from a man who is a proven success. And him and his dad, which is a beautiful story. Him and his dad started from nothing. They actually came to the country when he was a little boy, and him and I are about the same age. And they started a business and they sold it for a lot. Wow. And that was from nothing because they had the passion and the belief that it was going to happen. And now he's serving small businesses. And I have so much admiration and respect. If it was up to me, I'd call him every day, but he's a busy man. Yeah. So I don't. And we are partners now, which is a great thing. So, I'm pretty fortunate that what I'm trying to say is the information, if it wasn't out there and if we didn't put it out there, he would never know us.
Right.
But there was so much information out there about what we were doing. And I would sit up at night, come home from a gig, make videos, promote them. I have my manager is in Dublin. Her name is Ann McCord, and Ann McCord would post stuff, and we just kind of made this thing start, like a locomotive start happening and getting all this notoriety and information out there. That's how we ended up finding us, and I'm really glad he did. I sent them the cookies, and that kind of, convinced them that we should be doing this.
I saw a couple articles that you posted on your website, and it was Ireland, where yeah. And I was going to ask you that if your cookies were being distributed in Ireland.
Well, a couple of years ago, like there's been many iterations of the company.
Right.
We had a store in Japan. A company brought us over in Japan, and they made their money in technologies. So they didn't know the restaurant business, which is a very specific business. And they were throwing money in without doing the right marketing promotion and having relationships. And they ended up losing millions of dollars. So, they had 5 stores. I was one of the 5, and they all closed at the same time on the same day.
Wow.
And yeah, it was sad, but we did get a lot done there. My thing in life, from losing my mother to the store closing, I have found the mechanics to try to find something positive in everything. There's got to be a lesson in everything. You cannot allow the breakup of a relationship, the loss of a loved one, the bankruptcy, whatever it may be, to be a crutch. You have to find out something positive to learn from there and move forward. And that's what I've learned to do. Most people say, how are you going to deal with the loss of your store? And it opened about a year before. I'm like, I learned a lot from it, and I will use that as I move forward. Same thing with the restaurant. If I learned a lot from it, and I will, use those things I learned moving forward. Being an entrepreneur is one of the, it's like you built a highway on the ocean. It's a lot. It's going to keep doing this up and down. The waves could slap you off, and you got to climb back on and get the car started and keep it going. But it's not definite, and it's not for everybody. Right. That's what I'm saying. Remove the expiration date from your passion, and that will begin to help you because if you're looking at $1 million or $1 billion, you're destined to kill yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about like physically kill yourself, but you're destined to kill yourself because you're aiming for something that is less important than your passion, which is money.
Yep. And how do you keep the passion every day when you're if you feel like you got knocked down or you had a small setback? How do you keep that passion and the drive really pushing forward?
It's almost like a Disney movie passion is the only way to explain it. It's like you just keep on believing, and nothing or no one can get in the way of that belief. And I'm not saying be so bullheaded that you don't take advice. It's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying that even when things go wrong, you figure it out and you keep it moving. I had started and made all of these, forward motion things that were going on, and had to start over again from my kitchen with one rack, at a time. If it wasn't for my partner, this conversation wouldn't be happening.
Right.
She's a beast, when it comes to, I'm serious. She reminds me so much of my mother. It's frightening because she's so determined. And so my sister says it all the time. It's like, how does she do it? And my answer is always like, I don't know how she does it, but she does it. I'll go away on tour and she'll literally stay here at our factory where I am right now for 16 hours.
Oh my God.
And when our daughter was little, she would then get up in the morning, get her ready for school, and then start all over again with one rack. And now we have a factory, we're about to move, and now we have all of these great things. But it took the belief in both of us. So, it's important to have, that person.
Yeah. Yeah. How old is your daughter, by the way?
She's 19.
19.
Yeah, she's at Howard University. And, it's a tough first year out of COVID because some teachers are teaching and some teachers aren't. And,
Yeah.
she's having she had a rough senior year and she's having a rough freshman year. But, we're helping out. She's home right now. And we actually made her come home because she was sick. She got the flu and it wasn't getting better. So we said, get your behind on the train.
That's it.
So we can nurse you back to
let the family nurse you back to health.
Yeah, but she's a good young lady. I mean, she's never given me a lot of problems, and like all teenagers, like we were, there are points where she thinks she knows everything. And I want to shake her sometimes, but I think we all want to shake our kids. But I'm not trading her in.
That's right, and she'll learn and she'll find her way for sure. She's got the best role models on the planet. My daughter graduated right at the beginning of COVID, so the graduations all didn't happen, right? So your daughter was graduating high school at that point, right?
Yeah, and they almost didn't have the ceremony.
Yeah, same thing. My daughter, there was no ceremony for my daughter's thing, so she graduated from college, and so we went out to her school with her and her cap and her gown, and we took our own pictures, and we walked around the campus, just my wife and I and my daughter, and we had our own graduation. That was it.
Nice. Nice. And that will hold some great memories for a long time.
All right, so I got a couple speed round questions. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. So this, by the way, the website is listed in the description for Soul Snacks, and somebody chimed in before and said it was the second website is the correct one. So
you can access the cookie website by going to eatsoulsnacks.com.
Okay.
Yeah, eatsoulsnacks.com.
Eatsoulsnacks.com. Got that, kids? All right. All right, so check it. And I have to mention a couple drummers, but so Anna, some of these I asked you already, so I can skip them. But the first record you ever bought with your own money?
New Birthday. New Birth. There was a song on there. I walked in the EJ Corvettes, which used to be on right off of Brooklyn Expressway, which was now Kmart, was just closed down because the pandemic just killed them.
Right.
But I walked in and there was a song playing called "Got to Get a Nut," and it was killing. And the drummer, why does his name just slip my mind? We're actually friends. He was killing on it. It started out with a guitar. I mean, wrecking the song from front to back. And that was the first record I ever bought, the Birthday album. If you want to see the album cover, it's an album by New Birth, and the eggs on the front of the album are black. It's a black egg carton.
Oh,
and
wow.
One egg is broken open. Yeah, it's a really, that's when album covers were really cool.
Right? Yeah, man. I remember the inserts, everything on the album was great. You look on the back, you read everything. You get so excited if it was a double album set or if it had a flat, man, you were looking at all the artwork, reading everything. Kids don't know what they're missing. All right. So first concert you attended or first live show that really had an impact?
The first live show that really had an impact, my sister took me to the Apollo, which she, in order for her to go to the Apollo, many times my mother said, you can go, but you got to take your brother. So I think my mother made her take me because I was the one that kept her in line. So if she wanted to talk to a boy, I was the one that either was going to tell my mother or make so much noise that he would leave. So, so my sister Yvonne and her friend, I think Wanda at the time, lived in the building. We went down to the Apollo, and there was, I think Joe Simon was playing. I can't remember who else, but then there was a group that I never heard of called the Jackson 5. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm going, Jackson 5 sounds like a gospel group to me. Why would they have a gospel group with Joe Simon? It doesn't make sense. So anyway, we go in, and on the weekends they had 2 shows. So you would see the first show, then it was a movie, a couple of cartoons, and then the second show. So we got there during the movie and sat on stage left about maybe 12 rows back, and the show starts, and out comes this group called the Jackson Five. And the lead singer is this kid about the same age as I am, named Michael, that tore the stage completely down.
Oh
and
my
I
God.
sat there and was like, that's what I want to do that. Like, I want to be on stage like that. Like this kid is, he could sing and dance like any of the grown-ups that had been doing it seasoned for like 30 years. And so I was lucky enough to see the Jackson Five before their first album when it came out. So that's a show that impacted me. And then to end up working at the Apollo was surreal.
Wow.
To be on that stage, yeah.
That's amazing. He was dancing like a little mini James Brown.
Yeah, like it was like a Sam Cooke, like a Jackie Wilson.
Yeah, yeah.
It's killer.
Oh my God. First drum hero for you, like first drummer that became like the hero. It could have been some of the guys you mentioned that were your mentors, right?
The first drum hero, well, the first one that inspired me was Ringo Starr.
Oh, right. Yeah,
And
you mentioned that.
And then I happened to see Max Roach and was like, that's amazing. You know, again, this was on public access on Channel 13. Then, you know, you would see, you know, a Rico play with the Stones. Who else inspired me early on? Buddy Rich.
Right.
You know, Danny Serafin, Steve Gadd, Billy Cobham, Harvey Mason, you know, but the first big one that really made me go, oh snap, like that looks like fun was Ringo.
Yeah.
It was Ringo, because he just looked like he was having the best time of his life. And he was playing drums. I'm like, that's it. Look, that's what you do. When you play drums, that's how you look and you have fun. And, you know, people scream.
Oh my God. That's so great. First gig, like first actual gig. This is before, you know, anything hit, just like your first gig.
The first real gig I did was with Ricky Williams. It might have been with Leroy Evans, but I think the first real gig I did was somewhere with Ricky Williams.
Okay.
And it's so odd that I ended up being in his band, you know, as a kid, you know, and for many years I was the youngest kid in the band for a while, and then ended up being, you know, the AARP senior citizen in every band. It's like, you get over there, kids, and get your instrument, you know.
I got my AARP card
Right
and my sticks.
I'll cut you. I'll slash you with it. You
know? First big gig, like first, you know, when it was like a big venue.
The first big venue that I actually had a photo drawn in my bedroom that to me, being a successful drummer was playing at Madison Square Garden. And I finally got a chance to play at Madison Square Garden with an artist named Chuck Stanley from Def Jam. And I couldn't believe I was actually playing in an arena, even though we only had 15 minutes and the seats were like completely empty.
Right.
You know, we were playing to the staff. But the fact is my goal was now completed. I played at the Garden.
Wow.
You know, so
that's great. Worst gig that you ever had?
The worst gig,
or the weirdest? Could be the weirdest one, but the worst or weirdest gig that you ever had?
Okay, so I'm on tour with my first tour, the first time out of the country, first time ever on a plane. I'm 18, 19 years old, and I'm playing at a club in Mexico with Musique. And Musique had a big song at the time, disco song called Push, Push in the Bush.
Right.
Right? So I'm playing the drums, and all of a sudden, the toms start leaning to one side. And I'm going, what in the world is going on? Well, come to find out that the drums that they had gotten for the show were so old and weather beaten that the leg, while I was playing, the leg broke off. Not the spur fell off, the entire leg broke off.
Oh my God.
So the drums are leaning, we're right in the middle, and I'm now holding the toms up with one hand and playing with my left hand the groove and holding the drums for part of the show. And it was terrifying because, you know, in the moment, I'm like, what the hell? I can't stop. Like, stop, guys. We gotta, you know, I had to keep going. So that was my first terror. I've had many terrors on stage.
Yeah.
But that was one of the most terrifying because it was my first time out.
Oh my God.
And it was scary as hell, yeah.
Wow. Okay. How did you get the gig or the audition with Niles?
That came the audition, the gig with Nile came by way of Nat Townsley. Nat Townsley, the first time I heard Nat Townsley play, I was playing down at Nell's. Remember Nell's in Manhattan?
Yeah.
I was doing every night of the week, I was doing a different open mic somewhere. And then I was doing the Apollo on Wednesday. And then on the weekends, I was doing gigs. So I was one of the headlies. I was working everywhere. So Melanie Daniels, singer who used to sing with Mariah Carey, brings in this kid named Nat Townsley. And he said, you know, obviously, that you want to play, dude. Have a good time. And I'm watching him play. And as soon as he was done playing, I remember calling a guy named Ron Grant. Ron Grant was doing the biggest open mic in New York City at a place called Chaz and Wilson's. He passed away some years ago. Very, very good friend to most of us, musicians and singers in New York. And I said, yo, do you know this kid named Nat Townsley? And he happened to know Nat's father, who's a preacher. And he knew that Nat played, but he hadn't heard Nat play in many years because Nat was a little kid at the time. But I said, hey, yo, if you need somebody, that's the guy that you call, because Nat is he's ridiculous. So Nat came in and took off like a rocket. Like a rocket. Before you know it, Nat was playing on all of the open mics. He started doing gigs everywhere. He was playing with Joe Zawinul, started doing his own videos, and he was getting major press on everything. Just a phenom of a player. And he was playing with Joe Zawinul at the time, and he couldn't do the gig with Nile. Now, Nile was looking for a permanent drummer, and at the time, Nat was doing it. So my phone rings. I'm at my daughter's school. She's doing a play. I shouldn't have answered, but when I saw it was Nat, I'm like, it's got to be a gig. So I excused myself and I went out in the lobby, and Nat said, hey, what's going on? I said, what's happening? He said, well, listen, I am working with Nile Rodgers and Chic, and I can't do the gig. Would you like to sub for me? And I said, even if I had a gig, I was going to get a sub for my gig so I could get to play with Nile. Yeah. Because he had seen me play, and I wanted to play with Chic when they put the band together 20 years before that, when Omar Hakim was doing the gig. I wanted to do it then. So I was like, yes. The answer was yes. So they sent me some live recordings. They sent me Chic Live in Montrose DVD. And my style of practicing is to listen to the live performance to get all the different changes and segues. I write all of that out. I get my own book for that gig, so I could be able to flip the pages easily without going through other people's music. Right. I write everything out. But then my style is to listen to all of the originals. And I was a big fan of Tony Thompson. So I took what was going on, the transitions that Omar was doing, and I took the grooves that Tony was originally doing and found the happy medium inside the music to make that sound. Because the thing is, I want to access this music like people know. Yeah. It has nothing to do with me. I want to get the Tony sound the Tony, that feel, the tuning, blah, blah, blah. So now says he wants to hear me. He wants to go in the studio and listen to me play. So I'm like, okay. So it's only myself now and Barry. I don't know if you know who Barry Johnson is. He used to be in a group with Lenny White 29. Well, he was the bass player at the time. So we go into SIR, the three of us. He says, okay, let's run the medley. So I open the page up, I get it ready to go. I start playing the medley. We get about 2.5 songs in. Now he goes, okay. And he stops, packs up his guitar, and starts leaving. So boys and girls, I ask a lot of questions always. Anyone who works with me will tell you, I ask a lot of questions because I need to know what's right and what's wrong. So as he's leaving out, I go, excuse me, now? CJ said, is everything okay? He said, no, you sound great. I'll see you in Switzerland.
Wow.
So I get on the plane. I go to Switzerland, never played the whole show. Got my notes. I've already practiced again. I want to nail this. I do the show. And when it's done, the singer Silver at the time, Silver comes to me and says, Nile wants to know if you want the gig. And I'm like, the first words out of my mouth was, isn't this Nat Townsend's gig? And they said, well, no, Nat was there until Nile found what he wanted. And I said, are you sure about that? Because I'm not trying to cut somebody out of a gig. And they said, no, Nile is offering you the gig. And I said, well, okay. And that was 15 years ago.
Oh my
and
God.
It's been very cool. You know, I like the energy that Nile has. He's very just cool. You don't feel stressed when you go on stage. He's really all about just having fun and doing a great gig and, you know, just playing like we used to play at the clubs in New York City.
Yeah.
You know,
It definitely has that vibe.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're trying to, you know, we want people to feel that truth. And when you see us on stage having fun, that's not him saying have fun. We're having fun.
Right.
Like working with Jerry Barnes is so much fun, and we do so much laughing on stage. It's like the best 2 hours or 1 hour, whatever we have of my life, you know. And this is such a family. We're very close. Well, all of us are very close.
The whole band is totally killing. And then the other thing that's kind of cool is besides doing all the Chic stuff, you guys pull out other tunes that Nile either produced or played on, right? So like you pulled out some David Bowie when I saw you at the Garden. Yeah. So that was like killer.
Well, thank you. And the best way to describe the show, it's a performance piece dedicated to Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the kind of show that you can visualize everything that he's talking about. And then it takes you back. You know, for example, when we started doing this will be our 4th tour with Cher. But
right.
People were coming to the shows of our very first shows wanting to see Cher. They don't want to see Nile Rodgers and Chic. So people would be in the audience, you know, sometimes 50% full. It's like the first act is going to be done. And they're sitting there like this, like, oh God, we got to deal with this. So we start the show, and it always happens. We only have an hour, but it always happens the same. By the time we get to song number 3, when Kimberly Davis starts singing I Want Your Love, the whole world changes in that arena. The whole world. It's like, what just happened? And from that point on, we can see the audience being won over and with more people coming in. And then I guess the word kind of went out that this is not an opening act that you need to miss, because it's not an opening act kind of vibe.
No.
They are slamming the walls down in here, and you need to get in there. So now when we do the Cher show, it's almost totally full.
Oh yeah. It's a full-on party and everybody's dancing.
Yeah. And that's what we are trying to get people. The goal for us is that by the time Cher hits the stage, that the people are already out of their minds. And I think that's why she lets us come back and do the tours with her over and over again, because it's been a good marriage between the two organizations. And she's a sweetheart, and I'm really nice lady.
I will tell you too. I didn't know you guys were on the bill. My wife's a Cher fan, and I was like, cool. I'm gonna see Jason Sutter play. He's playing with Cher now, so I'm like, we'll go. So I got her really good seats for the Garden, and I had no idea you guys were gonna play. And then when I find out, Nile Rodgers is playing, I was like, whoa! All right, now I'm gonna have a really good time. But yeah, I was just blown away, man. And you're playing, and your energy, and the fun that you're having. I was like off to the side of the stage, side of stage right, and I had a perfect view of you, and just blown away. It's such a great show.
Yeah, I'm always honored and privileged, no matter where I play. It's just an honor to be able to pick up those sticks, whether I'm playing in front of the size audience that you were there or any place else.
Right.
It is, and I'm always, in my opinion, it's something that I'm doing in honor of everybody that got me there.
Right.
Everybody. Everybody. That's just how it is for me. I never take that, all these years later, I never, ever, ever take that moment for granted. It's too important. It's too special to not take it seriously or yourself to the moment.
Yeah. Oh man, that's beautiful. Well, I'll give you a couple little silly questions, and then I guess we could wrap.
Okay.
So I did have a lot of very detailed questions about grooves, but I don't want to keep you from your life all night.
No, go ahead, ask. I'm here.
But I have.
This is fun.
All right, cool. So since we're New Yorkers, I just have to ask you, these are like a few silly questions, but what's your favorite pizza in New York? I ask every drummer that.
Nick's Pizza on Gun Hill Road in the Bronx near the 5 train.
You hear that, people? Nick's.
If you want a killer slice of pizza, I'm not kidding. There's two places, Nick's and up in Fort Tryon. I can't remember the name of the pizza shop. But all right as you get to Fort Tryon, there's maybe one block before where there's a row of stores and there's a pizza shop there. If anybody can Google that shop, I'm telling you, if you want like a neighborhood pizza, go to Nick's. If you want something special, like a whole nother world, go to that pizza shop. Because what we do is we'll get a slice of pizza, and like when we really want pizza, there's certain things that we will eat that we know damn well we shouldn't be eating.
That's right.
One of those is pizza, and the other one is White Castle.
That is true. That is true.
And I know, so we'll go get the pizza and sit up there in the park and enjoy these amazing pizza. I swear they should be all over New York City. I just can't remember their name right now.
Oh my God. Favorite, are you a coffee drinker?
No.
All right, so coffee's out. What favorite adult beverage?
It's hold on. Pizza shop. I gotta find this because I got it in Fort Tryon.
Jim Mola always says Lombardi's in Bay Ridge. Lombardo's.
Yeah, is that the name of it? Okay, I don't know if this is it. No, that's not it. I'll find it anyway. My favorite adult beverage is Jameson.
Okay, nice.
I started drinking Jameson when I went to visit my very longtime friends, the McGrory brothers, who I had a family restaurant and live house and pub in a place called Caldaff, which is way up north in Ireland. And he introduced me to friends of his father that came there. There was their ritual to come there, and he brought me over to him. John brought me over to him, and Neil, and said, "This is Ralph, my friend. We met in New York when we were all teenagers, and he came up here with his family." And They said, well, we have a reserve bottle of Jameson. And the first thing in my mind is this is going to burn my chest out. I know it is. And they had a reserve, vintage bottle of Jameson there. And he says, well, you have to have a drink with us. And I said, absolutely, sir. And they all got up and they poured me a drink and they all said, welcome to Northern Ireland cilantro. And I took a sip, and right at that moment I went, this is so good. This is so good. So if it's not a glass of wine, it's definitely Jameson is my drink. That's my go-to.
Wow.
Most people know that about me. And then, the cocktail is a mixed drink is I love a sidecar. And I still don't know what's in it, but I just ordered it because it tastes good.
Sidecar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Check it out.
All right. I'll have to check that.
Now, what's so funny is most of my friends, they was like, Ralph he drinks. He's like, I don't drink like that, guys.
Right.
Girls, every now and then.
Yeah. That's all
don't panic.
Yeah.
I don't need a program.
We're just talking about the occasional,
Right.
By the way, Ray Levere's in here. Great friend of mine. I just saw him at PASIC, and he said, what an amazing life and a beautiful man you are. So he thinks you're beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
And my student, Jonathan Schneider, said that he's going to have nightmares. It's absolutely terrifying about when the leg fell off of your bass drum.
Oh, my God. It was.
He's going to have nightmares about that. So I usually have a drummer list, and actually probably a lot of your favorites are on this list. This is like my stock drummer list that I always say, like, I look for first reactions on drummers' names, but I made a special one for you because you had a lot of lists that I found. So I was like, well, we have to only change it by a couple of names, actually. That's pretty cool.
I just remember the drummer's name, Robin Russell.
Robin Russell.
From New Birth.
All right. There you go.
Beast.
And still, you said you're still friends with him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's
I was honored to meet the man and actually have like a text message with him. I was like, oh, snap.
Wow.
This is crazy. Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. So I'm going to reorder this, but the first one I wrote down is Bernard Purdie. So first thing comes to mind, Bernard Purdie.
Master.
Yeah. And as I said, I'm trying to get him on the show. We'll get him on. I have to talk to him about. He's got great stories too.
Probably tons.
Yeah.
He works a lot with my friend Steve Jankowski at his studio.
Yeah.
Jankland in South Jersey.
Yep. Yeah.
He's out there a lot. And every time Steve was there with him, he said, yo, he's barbecuing, come out. Because he likes to barbecue when he goes. But then I'm always doing something else and can't go. So I've never had a chance to meet Mr. Purdie in person, and hopefully I will get a chance to do that.
Yeah. Al Jackson Jr.
Such an influence on so many levels.
Yeah. Billy Cobham.
King of the fusion and definitely took my whole thinking in another direction when I first heard him.
Yeah. Just even the way he sets up and like he's like the godfather of open-handed everything, right?
So the one word answer is power. I would say power.
Yeah. And I love that you, on your required listening, you put down Ray Barretto's Lucretia the Cat as being a tune to listen to, which is such a great tune. And he grooves so hard on that. But then, of course, everything else he's doing on it is always mind-blowing. Man. You put down Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And so on did he play drums on the way out? On the song Way Out?
I'm not sure if Steve played drums on Way Out. I'm not sure, but I know the groove was pre-drum machine.
Yeah.
And it was so like perfect, like a lot of stuff that Steve Arrington, that they did was just amazing stuff. So that one groove, and it was also before Shake Your Body.
Right.
Just killer groove.
It's got the tom thing in it. It's got those openings.
Yes.
It's really interesting, man. It kind
Yes.
of it kind of reminds me of like some Ndugu like playing, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, really cool. By the way, Ndugu just got the PASIC, PAS, Progressive Arts Society Hall of Fame Award over the weekend.
Beautiful.
So they honored him, which was really beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It was really pretty
He was
amazing.
an incredible player and great educator.
Yeah, yeah. And they interviewed a lot for the film. They did a little film in tribute of him, and they interviewed a lot of his students who, just had such great things to say about him. How about Elvin Jones?
Um, when I first heard Elvin play, Elvin is freedom. That's the word, freedom.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. How about Art Blakey?
Um, Innovator.
I also always associate joy with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with you. I mean, watching you play, you always look joyful. But Art Blakey always looks super joyful, right? You never see him not smiling when he was playing.
Yeah.
Gregorico.
Fearless.
Yeah. Oh man. Such a great player. He's part of the Stick People thing that
Mm.
Lenny White, David Garibaldi, Gregorico, Mike Clark, they do that interview show, Stick People. So because of my relationship with David Garibaldi, I have some access. I'm trying to get those guys on the show too. I had Mike Clark on recently though. How about Tony Thompson?
I would say Tony was an adventurer because he was someone who could play other styles great. Like when he laid down a groove, the groove was laid, and when he did rock and roll, the groove was great.
Yeah.
So he could do that well. I always respected Tony. I don't think he ever really got the accolades that he deserved.
No.
Because he played on some of the most amazing records of our lives. And he's gone way, way too soon.
Yeah, way too soon. I did a little live stream. I certainly can't, approach even the deepness of his groove, but I did a little thing just kind of analyzing him a little bit. And like what he played on I'm Coming Out is just so groundbreaking for the time
Mm-hmm.
and grooves so hard. And like, who would have thought to play that really? And if that tune was given to somebody else, it would have been a different song.
One book that I would ask everyone to read is Le Freak by Nile Rodgers, because he talks about a lot of the record for Diana Ross that him and Bernard did.
Yeah.
That almost didn't see the light of day. Almost. And it ended up being the biggest record of her entire life.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We will definitely read that. Zigaboo Modaliste.
I would say the man is straight Old Bay seasoning. He's just one of the greatest things about the way he grooves is the freedom that he allows himself without being pressured into, he just makes it all flow just right. Like if you really study the groove on Sissy Strut, it is so amazing what he's doing.
Yeah. Just the way the bass drum is layered underneath that. I mean, it's just like so tricky. When I teach that with students, I go literally half a bar at a time, showing them the way things layer and the way things sit.
So really quick, I got a phone call from a super producer, Salon Remy, and he said to me, L.A. Reid from L.A. and Babyface, L.A. Reid is looking for a drum teacher, and I recommended you.
Wow.
And I'm like, L.A. Reid, like L.A. not some guy name like L.A. Reid, faking the funk L.A. He said, no, L.A. Reid. So they set me up with a meeting with L.A. And I go to his office. And when I walk in, we hit it off like old friends.
Yeah.
And we sat down for our first lesson because what was happening, he was being honored on BET Honors. And they wanted his old group, The Deal, to play, which is Babyface and, you know, all the other guys. But he felt like he was a little rusty. So, so we go in the studio, drums are, you know, facing each other. And I said, so let's just play. He says, well, the first thing I want to do is I want to learn the beat to Sissy Strut. That's the first thing. It's like,
right out of the gate.
You raised the bar like through the freaking roof over here. So we sat down and we dissected it together, and we got it, and he got it. He's a very good drummer, very, very good drummer, you know.
That's
and
wild.
I think he's successful as a record company executive because he's a musician.
Right.
Yeah, but that was the first thing he wanted to play was Sissy Strut.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And something two things I'm going to mention. So one is playing with Cameo, right? And then, so you talked about, you know, basically trying to get the vibe from the record.
Yeah. So the situation with Cameo is that Larry came to one of the local gigs. I was playing in a band called Indigo. Shout out to my Indigo family, which is my first family, music family. Vanessa Anderson, Andrika Hall, John Adams, Owen Hairston, Larry Robinson, myself, Gemini, and then in and out was my man Vincent Henry. And even Najee would sit in with us sometimes. Oh. But Larry Blackman had saw me play with Indigo and called me because Rayford Griffin was about to do a tour with George Duke and Philip Bailey. So one of the songs we were doing our show was Single Life. So I guess he liked what we were doing, called me down. I went down to Atlanta. It was a very strange situation when I walked into rehearsal. It was like nobody reacted. It's just like they were looking like, who's this guy? So I went and sat down, and Larry gave me his performance, because he did most of the recordings, on how he played. And it's a very like hard, almost rude rock funk approach that I teach now. I actually teach that Larry Blackman approach. I never played live. I learned so much in that very short period of time about that groove. I use a portion of it in the Nile Rodgers and Chic show, one of the songs, but I never made it out onto an actual live show with Cameo. Never did, because Rayford's gig was canceled. They brought him back and they sent me home. And I was very sad about that.
Yeah, but
you know,
that experience.
Oh, it opened up my eyes to a whole nother level of groove that I've used on hip hop records, just that Larry Blackman style.
Right. Because you were saying that you used it on in the Chic show, right? Soup for One?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that like playing in this sort of middle of the hi-hat with the shaft, getting that Oberheim drum machine sound, right?
Exactly.
That's so killer.
Exactly.
That's so killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And by the way, I saw you playing with, and I wasn't really familiar with him, and I now I have to look him up more. But Glynis Martin, you were playing a masterclass in Tokyo with bass player Glynis Martin. So, do you still play together? And how did that happen?
Okay, I just got a picture of Glynis just the other day from my very close friend Naoki Katsuda, who's a great guitar player, and he puts together a lot of shows in Japan. When I go over, I put together a funk band, and we just do some fun songs, and it's called Ralph Rolle and the Funk Patrol.
Oh,
and
cool.
We get huge audiences come out, and we just have a big party for about 4 hours. And Glynis will either play bass or sing and play bass.
Oh wow.
You know, but he's a bad boy. I love playing with him. You know,
That the clinic that I saw, you guys
off.
were locked up so well.
Yeah, it's so he falls into. He's a killer drummer. He plays drums.
Uh-huh.
He sings. He writes. He's one of those triple, quadruple threat dudes. You know, but
Wow.
Glennis is a bad dude. Shout out to you, Glennis.
Yeah,
See you soon. Hopefully January.
And you sing as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you sing some harmony with Chic.
Yes.
Yeah, because I see.
I do some.
You didn't.
Yeah.
No lead vocals.
And I sing Let's Dance.
Let's Dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like, you know, I'm always enamored by drummers that can sing and play at the same time, because I maybe I could, but I can't sing. so I'm missing that component, the ability to actually sing.
It starts out with one thing. Just start with a ooh, like ooh, and start with that,
right?
And then build slowly from there. You'll be fine.
Nice. And now the last thing I got. This is a total drummer question. Is
yes.
So I love this, and I'm going to ask you if I can put it into a book that I'm working on. By the way, I'm going to send you this. This is my book.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Filling in the Grooves. Oh,
cool.
This is out on Alfred puts it out in print, and it was published by Wisdom Media, and it's also on Hudson on their on the digital platform. But I'm going to send that to you. I'm doing a thing called the Shuffle Evolution. So every time I talk to drummers about their shuffles, I always want to include it in this sort of evolution of the shuffle. And Mike Clark and I talk shuffles, and Daniel Glass and I talk shuffles, and I talk shuffles with everybody. And you talked about, you know, you were making mention of the Picaro shuffle, which no one calls it that. Everybody calls the Purdy shuffle, but and of course we all know the Picaro shuffle from tunes that he's played on, and especially Rosanna. And then you made mention of that you're going to come up with your own shuffle, and it's the Ralph Rolle shuffle. And I love it because you basically took the swing pattern and reversed it. So on your hi-hat, you're playing, instead of da 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 da, you reverse that da 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 da, and then you're putting in the ghost notes and the kick pattern, and I love it. It's such a cool shuffle. It feels different than everybody else's shuffle, which it should, because there's nobody that can play Ralph Rolle better than Ralph Rolle. But I love the shuffle, and I'm going to transcribe it and if with your permission, and put it in the Shuffle Evolution timeline.
That's an honor, bro.
And
that's a real.
That is a killing shuffle. So anybody look up. I think there's a YouTube video of you breaking it down at MI or something, right? Musicians Institute Tokyo, I think.
There's another one on Drum Dog.
Okay.
If you go to Drum Dog, you find drum.dog.
Yeah. So check out the Ralph Rolle shuffle. And how did you come up with that? Was it really just trying to think up something that felt different, or is it something you were already playing and then you just decided like, oh man, that's like my thing. That's my shuffle?
It kind of, I think it just kind of fell into it. But one thing that I learned about listening to people like Harvey Mason and Steve Gadd and Purdy and all, and Dennis Chambers and a lot of other, shout out to Dennis, who changed my life too. When I saw him when I was on tour with Evelyn Champagne King, we opened for P-Funk All-Stars. Oh. And Dennis, God, anyway.
The whole stage shakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add a little space in it, just to give the ghost notes some other room.
Yeah.
So just taking out that one shuffle on the hi-hat allowed for just a little bit of space to open up for it to have like a little bit of a different type of sound to it. So
yeah, and it's the space that you created in it is the part that's so different, because a lot of folks will leave out the part before that and leave the space on the 1 and the 3, but you put the space after the 2 and the 4, and that's cool. It's really, it opens up some space for where the backbeat sits and where the ghost notes. Like, I may have to book a lesson with you, and we'll work shuffles together.
That's funny.
If anybody has any last second questions here, field them quickly, people. Lucia said, "Thank you so much, Jim and Ralph. I had such a great time at this live stream. Have a good night." Lucia, as I said before,
Thank you, Lucia.
one of my young students that's so talented, and she just got into the Lincoln Center jazz ensemble for the middle school kids, so that's awesome. So she'll be working with Carl Allen, I believe, and Lincoln Center Jazz. So very good, Lucia. All right, you guys.
Congratulations, Lucia.
Yeah,
that's
she's a
big,
beautiful name.
accomplishment.
Her name is Lucia Rose Seminara.
Oh, well, you have my mother's middle name as your middle name.
Oh, really?
My mother's name is Rose. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. So, man,
Rose.
such a fun hang tonight. Oh my God.
Thank you for having me, man. This was great.
Seriously, inspiring for me, and I know for everybody else that's watching. I could go on for probably a much longer time. I have more questions, but maybe we'll do a part 2 one day like I'm doing with Billy. So like later on down the road, we can revisit. Any last things we should mention that we want to promote before we sign off?
Well, I'd like to thank Yamaha Drums for being so on point. You know, when I'm working in different places. Yeah. Whether it's in the studio or live. Thank you, Yamaha. Zildjian Cymbals, it was always a dream of mine to be a Zildjian artist, and I'm so proud to be a Zildjian artist. Thank you to Mr. Perry Wilson for giving me that endorsement. I'd like to thank Vader Sticks, Chad Brandolini, who's become someone that I can actually call on the phone. Chad is a good guy. Talk. We talk more than sticks. We talk kids. And, yeah, man. It's great sticks to have, and he better put out a signature series on me next year. So nice. Wait, what's your go-to Vader stick? West Sides. Nice. I use the 5/8 barrel tip. Yeah, I was for a long time using Manhattans, but they, it just started to not have. I just wanted a little more power and a little more, force. Yeah. And still have the power to do the ability to be able to groove and have a sound. And that longer stick, the little heavier stick, just kind of started to work for me in a good way. I found myself working less with that stick as opposed, and the Manhattan sound great, but I just started working less with the West Sides. And Remo Drumheads. Thank you so much for your years of love and allowing me to be an artist with you guys for so long. So it's all of my companies. Yeah. Great companies. Chad, by the way, love Chad, and Ray Levere was saying Chad's the best. He said he uses the Acorn Fusion. A lot of Vader heads in here tonight. And my mom said this was fantastic. So my mom was very happy with the live stream. Thank you, Mom. And thank you for being tough. Yeah. Jimmy. She was tough. Yeah. She was tough. And Jonathan Schneider said he accidentally plays your shuffle without even knowing it was your shuffle. So now he knows what to call it. I just gave it a name. Yeah. But it bears being transcribed and included in teaching texts for sure. All right, man. So we're gonna wrap it up, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with me. You're very generous with your time, and your story is amazing. So everybody go out and check out Soul Snacks, and also check out Ralph Rolle's website, because there's a lot of great information up there. He also teaches, so check him out for that. And when are you going to be on tour again with Chic? Oh, we're heading back out again in March with the Cher tour. Yeah, I'll be there. And one more beautiful just mention to Ricky Williams, Ricky Mangum, Bobby Craig, the three guys that definitely, and absolutely without without just, my brother Howie, who, I know his passion was to be a drummer, but he sacrificed to raise a family. That's right. And that's a beautiful thing. And he planted the seed in you. Oh, he did, for sure. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for those mentors.
Who knows? Who knows what would have happened if your drum set wasn't, if that drum set wasn't sitting in between your two beds?
I'd probably be sitting at a mechanical engineering table, somewhere.
Miserable.
I probably would have moved to Virginia and worked with my brother. Probably.
Right.
That probably would have happened. So.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Right, well, thank you, Jimmy, for having me, man.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode. Next week we got some great episodes, so tune in again, and we'll talk to everybody real soon. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.